I know. That was purposeful.
Morning, fish keepers. Good afternoon, fish keepers. How we doing? Cam here from the fishroom.co.nz. We've got John, who was one songing around the world. Where are you today, John?
I'm in Madrid today.
In Madrid. A little bit different to rainy, sleety old Scotland, isn't it?
Yeah, much better than dirty, damp old Scotland.
Cool. Good morning, Luke. How are you? So we're not going to muck around too long. We do have a guest sitting in the background. I'm going to give everybody the warning right now, and the only warning now. High chance there'll be swearing. It is what it is. It's 8 o'clock here, but it's well and truly after 8 o'clock at night everywhere else. So it is okay as far as I'm concerned. We're going to bring up our guest. Good morning, Boris Lasercat.
Hello, gentlemen. How are we?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
All good.
Yeah, I'm incredibly well. Very well indeed. I don't know what you can see of me. On my little screen, I can see what looks like a white glow in the background. That's one of my tanks. How resolved that is in your screen, I don't know. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
See it. Cool.
So I'll show you. I'll turn the camera around in a bit and I'll show you what's going on in there. I'm only going to show you the one tank, though, because my other ones are, well, partly they're private. They're my own thing. That's my hobby. And one of them looks like crap at the minute because it's just got a load of algae in it, and I haven't put a new CO2 canister on it. So you're not seeing that one either, I'm afraid. But yeah, I'll show you this one behind in a bit.
Very good. Thank you very much for joining us. It is much
my pleasure.
For those of I've got a banner at the bottom. For those of people that are watching that don't know you, can you please give a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Well, no, I can do better than that. How about I give you... I'm guessing you don't know much about my life, and I'm guessing that any of my former readers from the PFK years, they only know, or they think they know fragments of me from the magazine. So I guess I can give you the kind of extended whistle-stop tour of my life and how it became fishy, if that works for you. I mean, you're not in a
fire away.
You're not in a rush, are you? Excellent. And I will be, like Ella Keith Floyd, I will be just imbibing as we go along here, so bear with me. And that's not working, so we're going to be into the tequila soon. So, fish in my life. Started very, very young. I got my first ever fish when I was 4 years old, and that was in 1980. That's how old I am. And that was a Sarasa Comet, which we called Rover. Sarasa Comet then did what goldfish do when 4-year-olds get them. It started off in a bowl, it outgrew the bowl, went to a bigger tank, went to a bigger tank, went to a bigger tank. Eventually, many years later, it actually ended up in one of my best friend's ponds. I lost track of that fish around about the age of 32, so it had a very good innings. And that was only because my best friend's parents, whose pond it was in, they moved house. So we just lost track of it at that point. So yeah, we know that had a very good innings. The tropical side started when I just started secondary school. I think you start at 11. John, am I right? Is it 11 when we started secondary school? Is that about right?
Yes, 11 going on 12.
Okay, so in that case, it would have been my 12th birthday. For some reason, I wanted to be the unusual kid. And my 12th birthday present was a piranha, which we called Tiddles. Now, something happened with that fish. That was the spark that set everything off. So within a couple of years of that, we had, I think, 10 tanks in the house, ranging anywhere from an 18x10x10 up to like a 6-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot. And throughout my secondary school years, I was absolutely fish obsessed. I literally didn't want to do anything else but keep fish. Totally obsessed with it. Anyway, got through the school years, finished school, I was fucked. Okay, so I've literally come out, I'm like, I've got GCSEs, all I'm interested in is fish, not really much of a career market for fish. So a couple of years were a little bit wasted, a little bit lost. I was still obsessive as a hobbyist. And then fortune had it that my dad discovered a fish keeping course down at a place called Sparsholt College in Winchester, quite a famous college back in its day. So for the first time, I moved away from home, went down to Winchester and studied aquatics and ornamental fish management. And then I went back home again after the course finished. And again, I was fucked. So now I'm qualified in fish. There's still no fish jobs knocking around. So for a few months, in absolute limbo, didn't know what I was going to do in my life. And then completely out of the blue, because I'm from Hastings, a little town on the southeast coast of England, there's a big public aquarium. There was a sea life centre in Hastings, and they just advertised completely out of the blue. They needed a third aquarist to join their team over at Sea Life. So I applied. By definition of probably being the only person in Hastings qualified in anything remotely fishy, got into the job. Working with a couple of great guys there. I worked with the curator at the time was a guy called Paul Hale. He went on to be the curator of the London Aquarium, so very famous aquarium. And then I think, Cam, I think he might be down your neck of the woods now. He emigrated somewhere to the southern hemisphere, but I don't know where. And the other guy I was working with, or another lady I was working with, was a lady called Jen Nightingale. Again, she was very well renowned. She went on to be the curator of the aquarium at Bristol Zoo. And so in my time there, I absolutely milked them for everything I could possibly get information-wise. Not physically milked, but just milked them. Okay. Yeah. And then a few years of that was superb. I mean, if you can get, if money's not a worry for you and you can get into public aquaria, do it, because it is absolute career gold. Amazing time I had there, but the pay was absolute crap. Really, really bad pay. So at that point, bear in mind, this is what, late 90s now. I wanted to spread my wings and I wanted to make a career out of fish keeping. And on my radar, on the back of PFK, every month was advertised a store called Maidenhead Aquatics. Yep. Now, back at that time, late 90s, only had a handful of stores. They only had like a dozen, maybe 15 stores around the country. So they were looking for employees. I went up to Bourne End, did my interview with a guy called Paul Butler with the most amazing moustache in fish keeping at the time. Huge, angry moustache that guy had. And the timing was just perfect because this was when Maidenhead was on its meteoric rise. So, John, you'll be more familiar with Maidenhead than Cam is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But in the following, you Fishkeeper Scotland up there, of course. Right. So those didn't exist when I joined. So everything was basically stationed somewhere around London. It was all in the vicinity of the outskirts of London.
3 stores, I think it started with, wasn't it?
What, the Maidenheads?
Yeah.
Well, originally it was 1. It was just it was Bourne End, just outside of Maidenhead. I think that was the initial store. Yeah. And the guy who founded it, David Lawrence, was an absolute visionary. So he brought in things that no one else was really doing. So hire purchase on aquariums, made an awful lot of money very quickly. But I caught Maidenhead just on this massive expansion. So I was in there at just the right time. So I spent a very, very brief spell at a place called Syon Park down near Brentford, near Kew Gardensy way. And then I went across to Bristol, and I founded a store there with a guy called Dan. Very successful store, still there to this day. And again, after a few years there, it was still expanding. Still wanted to spread my wings. Went up into the Midlands, set up a store called Telford. Also helped out with a couple of other stores. So the guys up at Mere Park, for example, had fingers in a few different pies, and that was great for a while. But again, eventually they kind of reached what I thought was their peak, and everything started to slow down. So they had stores in Wales, they had all across the UK. At this point, they had the fish keepers up in Scotland, and it was quite obvious that it was getting very saturated. And it was like, well, there's not much more moving I can do now. There's not going to be that many more stores going up. So I jumped ship, and then I went into freelance writing for a while, freelance aquatic journalism. So I used to write for, there was a magazine at the time called Tropical Fish. You might remember. Yeah. So I used to write for those guys. Used to write for PFK, handful as well as non-fishy mags. I was just very freelance journalisty. And again, that was a good life. The only downside to that, as any of my contributors will attest, is that the pay from freelance journalism is very intermittent. So it all depends on the editors as to when they're going to run a feature. If they're going to sit on it for 3 months, you just don't know what they're going to do. So you can work your ass off. You might get a huge amount of money 1 month, and then you might go with nothing for 2 or 3 months. So it was inconsistent. I had a mortgage to pay, and I mean, the money was running out and the mortgage was going nowhere still. So started looking around again. And then another moment of complete luck. There was a college just up the road from where I was in Telford, a place called Reese's College up in Nantwich. Fascinating college. Well worth a look at sometime. It's one of the few colleges in the world where they teach zookeepers how to become zookeepers. So it's a college with its got its own zoo on site. So you've got like dangerous cats, you've got hoofstock there, you've got monkeys there, you've got, I mean, you name an animal, it's there. It's brilliant. And they had big ties in with like Chester Zoo to help students get hands on. Anyway, by the by, they were just setting up at that time a huge aquarium section because they wanted to expand their teaching and move into teaching aquatics. So quite literally, the course I'd done like decades before down at Sparsholt, these guys were now doing up here. So I applied. That was a heavier. I didn't just walk into that job. There was an awful lot of people that were interested in that job. I had a little bit of there's a little bit of a nepotic connection there, I'd say, because the two head lecturers at the time, David Hulse, Dave Wolfenden, were also both freelance writers working for the same publications that I was. So we already had a bit of a rapport there. They already knew what I was capable of. Anyway, long story short, got the job. So I spent a few years there teaching aquatics, lecturing aquatics. Again, absolute golden age. Didn't think things were going to get much better than that. I thought like this is the height of being. And then completely out of the blue, I can't remember if it was a phone call or if it was an email, but someone got in contact with me from PFK, one of the publications I've been writing for. And they just gave me the heads up that the existing editor, he was leaving, and that if I applied for the job, there'd be a very strong running for me to go in for it. Now, I didn't apply for the editor's job, never wanted to be an editor, but I did throw my hat into the ring. And I was like, well, when he moves up, I want to be the writer. I want to be the features writer or the features editor. And then lo and behold, again, just breezed my way straight into that one. And that's where I was for the best part of 15 years. So yeah, I started off as a technical writer, moved on to features writer or features editor. And then eventually, this is kind of where it all went a bit wrong for me. Eventually, as much as I fought it tooth and nail, I kind of got pushed into the editorial role. I didn't want to take on the magazine. I was a writer. I've always been a writer. I've not been an editor. And so, yeah, eventually, I was kind of shanghaied into the role, I guess. And I took the editorial position. And then I stuck that for a few years. And again, only recently now have I left. So that was the start of July. I left that. And now, because I know a lot of people are eager to know where I'm working now, I work locally. So I've kind of come full circle, and I work in an aquatic store that's just down the road from where I am in Hazel Grove. I'm now up in the northwest. I work in an aquatic store called the Fish Room at Brookside Garden Centre. It's a charming little place. As soon as I walked in there, I was like, didn't even know it existed. It's literally 30 minutes walk from my house. I didn't even know it was there. Wow. And we only stumbled on it by accident because I was looking for an apple tree for the garden. Went to the garden centre. Straight at the back, I was like, what's that? There's a fish room back there. Went inside, and it had that nostalgic feel of all the stores I loved from like the 80s and 90s. Yeah. But it was kind of modern at the same time. It was the guy, the owner of it, John, has a very similar image to what he wants out of an aquatic store as what I want. So it's just like a boutique of lovely like botanicals, lovely bits of wood, lovely rocks. Mainly we're aiming at newcomers. It's a very noob-oriented store, but it's one of those stores where like every fourth or fifth tank you look into, there's a little gem. There's just something lurking in there that you fall in love with. And so, yeah, as soon as I saw that place, I just fell in love with it. And so, yeah, I started doing a little bit of part-time work there, going back many months. And then, yeah, in recent times, I just realised I was so much happier there than I was doing the editorial work that, yeah, I just asked him if he wanted to take me on full-time. And here we are now. So, yeah, I water change tanks, I algae wipe tanks, I serve newcomers, and I've never been happier. It is just, I've reached nirvana. And it's just like being a sort of 15-year-old back in doing weekend work in the local fish shop. It's just lovely. It's just absolutely lovely. But now I get paid like a grown-up money to do it, and it's wonderful. So yeah, I said it would be a sort of larger whistle stop tour. I think that was like 10, 12 minutes there we did. But yeah, that's who I am, and that's my background. So yeah, lots of eclectic, different types of aquarist experience, culminating in a long career in writing, and now finally ending up with me just curating the livestock in a charming little boutique at the back of a garden centre with its own miniature railway. So.
Well, there's nothing more therapeutic than getting your arms wet, cleaning out.
Absolutely. Cam was just asking what
passion for fish keeping that only can have. It's great.
Yeah. I think Cam was asking what we had there. We've got a miniature railway on site. So yeah, I know I can't get my head around it either. So there's basically this little train. Yeah, there's this little train. No, people ride on it. It's just like a sort of go-kart sized train that just runs on these tracks, and they've set up all sorts of weird shit. Like there's like little gnome villages and shit that you ride past on the train. I don't know, I've never been on it, but I have seen it derail once, and it was fucking hysterical. So right outside the shop as well, little thing tanking along and just yeet off the fucking rails, over it goes. They didn't know what to do. And I'm like, it's literally in our fucking gate. No one can get in. It's right in the fucking way. Like this. Sorry? No. I was too professional for that. The phone wasn't on me, but yeah, I really wish I had a camera right there. It's like, yeah, this is gold, absolute gold.
The military railway isn't run by the fish shop or the.
No. It's the guys who run the garden centre, but the track comes right past our shop. So to get in, you've got to basically go like across a little railway crossing to get into the shop. And so yeah. If you're deaf or if you've got headphones on and you're sort of loitering, you could easily get hit, which would be hysterical.
That would be priceless.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You've taken us on a little bit of a journey. So we're going to see if we can stick to our structured questions and see how we go from there.
I'm going to derail that shit in a heartbeat. So.
That is absolutely fine. I feel a little bit ridiculous with some of the way that some of these questions might work, but we'll see how we go.
Let's give it a try.
What were some of the most valuable lessons you learned early in your fish keeping journey? Take that wherever you want to go.
Valuable lessons I learned in my fish keeping journey. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, so many of those answers to that question are going to be the obvious ones. So I was flying blind until I got a test kit. But doubly, I was flying blind, A, until I got a test kit, and B, until I knew what the fuck I was doing with it. Because it's all well and good. I was like, I'm testing for ammonia, I'm testing for nitrite, what does this shit mean? All I know now is I've got a wonderful sort of traffic light set of different colours in test tubes, and I haven't got a clue what any of it translates into. So, yeah, I think the most important part, rather than even testing, was just learning about the nitrogen cycle. And I'll be honest, I didn't really understand that until I went to college. And that was like one of those epiphany moments when they kind of, the first couple of months was just every day drumming in the nitrogen cycle again and again and again. We learned everything there was to learn about, like chemoautotrophs, heterotrophs. Yeah, it was an absolute wild ride. But that is probably the thing that I fall back on most across any of the jobs I've been in since. Even now, I mean, it's 5 out of 10 questions or 5 out of 10 queries we get in the store all stem back to just that nitrogen cycle. There's people not understanding it. And I think it's really a thing as well that as fish keepers, you kind of become a little bit arrogant in that because you know it, you kind of expect everyone else to know it automatically. Mm-hmm. And you've really got to understand. I think that's probably another valuable lesson, but that came later in life. You've got to understand that what you know, these guys don't know. They don't know what like nitrous minus, nitrous spiro. They don't know what any of these bacteria are. They don't know what they're doing. So they've only got sort of vague bits of information that they've pulled out of this sort of fog of hazy knowledge. And they'll know vague things like we're not supposed to clean the filter under a tap, or we're supposed to add the chlorinator. They don't know why. And it's like, well, just I think with everyone, you need to take it very much bottom up. Even if the customer seems to know quite a lot, or even if the fish keeper seems to know quite a lot, just make sure they've got those absolute fundamentals in place, because 9 times out of 10 they haven't. So there's just going to be something glaringly obvious. Other lessons early on, probably listen to people that know. So, and I think that's a very valuable lesson for now as well. We get an awful lot of people that think they know stuff and think they can just shut other conversations down. But when you actually start peeling the veneer away, what you find is, again, much like those noobs I mentioned, they only have like little pieces of knowledge. They don't have the full picture, and they tend to overlook the people that do have that full picture. So, yeah,
you've just gone really technical there on the bacteria naming a strain, which I don't think we've heard anyone do that on a stream before. Name actual strains of said bacteria.
Okay.
How important do you think it is for the hobby in general to know that kind of information, or do you think we're kind of okay still sitting at ammonia, nitrate type levels?
No, I think so. One of the things I've learned since moving up here is that we've got incredibly. So bear in mind, so if you think about my early career, so especially all my time in Mainhead, I was in the southern half of the country. So I was in Sea Life in Hastings. I worked in stores in Hastings. I was across Bristol. I was up in the West Midlands. It's all very hard alkaline water that we've got there. The KH levels in Bristol and the KH levels in London, where I was working, absolutely through the roof. And one of the key things we've noted since I've moved up here is how different the information I need to give to people is regarding how their filter actually works. So just to digress ever so slightly. So, for instance, when I was in Bristol, everyone had pretty hard, pretty alkaline water. Okay, so we had newcomers come in. They'd have a problem with a new tank. Classic new tank syndrome. Too much has gone in too soon. They bring in a test kit. The ammonia reading might be 0.5 ppm. So just that first kind of hint of green. pH would be like 8.2, and everything's dying. So we had to explain things in a certain way. Then we had to explain, like, there was that whole link between ammonia, between the pH, the toxicity of the ammonia. Since we moved up here, we've got a completely different ballgame. So my KH, for instance, out of the tap is anywhere between 0 and 1 degrees. We have major issues up here, and the pH is generally somewhere between sort of 6.2, 6.5. And what we find up here is that quite literally, so you've got a lot more of a safety net up here, but people's tanks just aren't maturing. So it's too soft and acidic for bacteria to even form. So you get guys come in, they've had a tank running for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, and it's not right, inverted commas. So bring in a sample of water, we'll see if we can work out what's going on. Have a test. The first we tested ammonia. I had one come in the other day. It was literally racing green on the API test. It was almost black. It was just like right at the very bottom of the scale. Fish were healthy as anything. So his pH is like at 6. And his KH is absolutely 0. I was like, well, we're screwed now, because now you've got a situation where the bacteria don't have enough carbonate for them to do their job. They literally can't do what it is they need to do because they're missing the fuel source to do it. So, but he wouldn't know that unless I'd actually explain it to him. I could just say, look, ammonia turns into nitrite, turns into nitrate, or it's converted by bacteria. But there, something fundamental was missing, and that is that these bacteria need more than ammonia. They need carbonates as well. They need effectively a calcium source in order to do their job, and that's what you're lacking. So he needed to know a little bit about the biology of the bacteria, or how the bacteria function, in order to resolve the problem. And I can't say that's even like a one-off case. So much of what we get coming through the doors are people with ammonia through the roof, no hardness whatsoever. And yeah, the tanks are just stalled in this like perpetual new tank limbo where nothing's happening. So I think it is pretty important to know something of is physiology the right word? Something of the requirements of the bacteria to function, and that does require a little bit of understanding of the bacteria themselves. So yeah, even if you don't know the bacteria names, just to know what it is they do and what ingredients they need to do it is vital. And that's something that I've very much learned since moving up here. Honestly, it's a completely different challenge.
How do you approach that for people that are just got into the hobby and just want to have a pretty fish tank in their lounge or something along those lines, like, because that's quite an overwhelming of knowledge that has to be passed on. So how do you break that down to a really easy consumable point, like your basic API, yellow, blue, red, good sort of scenario?
Yeah, so quite literally, it is as you explain it there. So what we have to do in some cases, you can spot, as I'm sure as well as I can, the guys that are really interested in learning the chemistry side. They're the hobbyists, they're the hardcore hobbyists who want to know everything. And then there's the what you call the lifestyle aquarists, and they just want a glass box full of colourful things in the corner of the room. And what I effectively do in those cases is I just take ownership of the situation. So I just say to them, look, here's what's going on at the minute. You've just basically got, there's too much bad stuff. The fish are creating too much pollution. The bacteria that would normally break that pollution down or convert that pollution down, they don't have the ingredients they need to make this work. So here's a powder off the shelf. Here's some liquid off the shelf. Here's what you need to send it the right way. But come back in 3 or 4 days. Let me have a test of it again, and we'll see if it's going the right way. Literally, it's on the back of a business card. I'm literally writing instructions down of like 5 grams of this day 1, test it tomorrow, 3 drops of this, and then come back to me. But the beautiful thing as I set up here is that there's just so much room for forgiveness because that water's so acidic. Even if they do nothing bad really happens because the ammonia is just going nowhere. It's all bound as ammonium because it's so soft and acidic. It's just not causing problems. So you can, if you were being almost mercenary and lazy, you could almost ignore it, but yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. So yeah, it's just simplify, just taking ownership.
So having worked in aquarium shop from the south coast up to the northwest, have you noticed a trend in different problems geographically?
Yeah, only that KH thing. Yeah, only that hardness thing.
Same kind of problem.
Yeah, no, the difference is, so where I was down south, like I said before, it's just anyone gets the first hint of ammonia, their pH is so high that it's just lethal. Even like a whiff of ammonia is all in there as free ammonia rather than bound ammonium. And so we had an awful lot of troubles down south with people that had fish dying because it didn't take much. 1 or 2 overfeeds in a new aquarium was all it took to just push that ammonia up to toxic levels. Up here, Christ, you could stick in like a whole tub of aquarium and it would just do sod all. So yeah, if anything, it's just, I would say if I was starting afresh and I'd come to the north, I'd have had such an easy ride. But if I'd then moved south and tried to take my ethos of fish keeping from up north down into the south, it would have been a complete disaster. Because I'd be looking at things that just wouldn't work. I'd be looking at people bringing in like test tubes of dark green ammonia, and I'd be thinking, why have you got a problem? This has never caused me an issue at all up north because everything was so soft. So yeah, I genuinely think it's easier to keep fish up here in many respects than it is down south. Yeah, and unless you want to keep hard water fish, in which case, yeah, big problems.
Yeah.
We've had
because Britain's not a large, mass of land, but the water perimeters are so different from the south to the north.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So we had a question. There we go. I'm going to try and pronounce that word. Well, I'm going to try, I suppose.
Archaea. Archaea bacteria. So this is all based on a single review by a chap called, I want to say his name is Josh Neumann. I think if I've done him a disservice and got his name wrong there, then I apologize. What he did was he did a study some years ago, going back a fair few years, where they analyzed the contents of filters, literally aquarium filters from various sources. And so they took effectively the biofilm out of biofilters. I don't even remember the process. I don't know if they DNA analyzed it, what they did with it. But what they found was that the presence of nitrous amonis, nitrous spiro, nitrobacter was pretty much non-existent. And what he was finding in there was archaea that were doing the same job instead. However, to my knowledge, no one has ever been able to replicate that experiment. So I don't know that it does seem to be a one-off. It would need, basically, we just need someone else to do the same thing. We need someone else to do a dozen different trials and just see if it's archaea or if it's bacteria. Ultimately, I mean, it's tomato. It's two microbes that are doing the same job in roughly the same way, and we're quibbling over a name. I think we're quibbling over the terms. Bear with me. I'm just going to wave at my wife a minute and just see if we can. Just see if I can get this cider refilled. And I'm honestly, I'm far too sober here. Can you see if that tequila's cooled down yet in the freezer?
How many ciders did you prepare for this stream?
Well, I've only had a couple, but I ate when I got home, and it's done absolutely nothing. So I'm gonna have to hit the hard stuff in a minute. Otherwise, this won't be anywhere near sweary enough. I've just enjoyed my cat.
All right.
So right, questions. Hit me with some hard stuff.
Oh, all right.
Could I beat John in a fist fight?
Well, we've still to find out, haven't we?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to put it onto the test.
Could you beat John in a fist
fight? But it never happened.
I don't know. So I reckon if we're doing it, we're going to do it like gladiator style, which is left wrist bound to left wrist, and then all you've got is the right, and we just go at each other. So that if we were ever going to do it, I want to do it like that. But have you guys caught this? What the fuck is it called? Is it called Fins and Fury? This fish creator boxing thing?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it pop up.
Yeah, God, that makes me want to die. So yeah.
So you're saying that I can't organise you and John to meet up and fight each other?
I mean, not like that. No. I mean, it's going to be a legal bare knuckle, like back alley somewhere thing. So yeah, we're not going to do it in a ring. We're not going to be all poncy and like use gloves and stuff. We're just going to batter each other.
Yeah.
So right, tequila.
Right. So we've had another question about what we were talking about before. Luke, he has said, I've already forgotten the name. That in lieu of anaerobic denitrifying bacteria, not nitrifying, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, I think it was not denitrifying, actually. Yeah, I might have got the term wrong there. So, yeah. But again, more research needs to be done in this area. So everything we know on the subject, so Nitrobacter, all that's born out of aquaculture anyway. So we're literally we're piggybacking on the backs of like carp farmers and trout farmers. So there's very scant information based on aquaria. So, I mean, I'm perfectly open to be like corrected and shown what is exactly what. I'd love for someone to just do like a definitive analysis and tell me what the hell is actually going on inside our filters, so we know for once and for all. But yeah, all we've got are clumsy tools to work with. There aren't many of them, unfortunately. So what works for 15 tons of carp in a fishing lake probably doesn't work for 38 neon tetras in a 60-litre tank. But maybe there are parallels between them. So yeah, but that like I say, it's a blunt instrument, but it's all we have. So if someone can provide better, I will read it from literally from start to finish, and I'll just ingest it all. Tequila.
Empty coffee.
Jesus. Fucking hell, that tastes like arse. Oh.
This is absolutely the first time we've had somebody drinking while we've been doing a stream, and it is incredibly entertaining from my end. So fantastic.
Yeah,
I've got the cider as well, so let's keep working on this. Honestly, it's doing too little at the minute.
But I want to talk about fish photography, because obviously when you were doing fish tours and stuff like that, you missed about it an awful lot, about the scratches on glass and having to work around it and things like that. So how did you achieve print-worthy photographs without big scratches in it?
With extreme fucking difficulty is what I'm going to say there. So for every one photo that has been published in there are probably 50 or 60 that just ended up going absolutely nowhere. So it's all about that lucky shot. So yeah, with fish photography, I mean, I was blessed in the time I was working with publishing. I was absolutely blessed. We had the best design software, and we had the latest, latest of Photoshop, Lightroom, Camera Raw, all the gimmicks. So yeah, I started off not really having a clue about fish photography at all, and I was actually a street film photographer. So I used to just run around with a few old 35mm analog cameras and a medium format, basically a Russian version of a Hasselblad, the old Hasselbladsky. And it was only when I started going out on shop tours, because with PFK every month originally we used to have to go out to like 4 stores every month. You still there, guys?
Ooh,
You still there?
Yep.
Yeah, we're still there. So yeah, I used to go out to several stores every month, and because of that, I was going out with a professional photographer every month, a guy called Neil Hepworth, who, I mean, his main thing is gardening photography. The man's he's a professional photographer. He can do stuff that I can only dream of, and all I did was just absorb everything that man was doing. I would again milk him for information, again not physically, but yeah, would just pump, just get everything I could, and slowly but surely, that was then combined with being back in the office. So when we were at Bauer, for example, so when I first joined PFK, we were at Bauer Media. It was fucking huge. Bauer was like a £2.5–3 billion turnover a year media empire. Yeah, it was huge. So one thing I should probably clear up. So when you think of like PFK editorial, you're probably thinking of like a dingy little office with a couple of fish tanks in there and like a couple of fish nerds knocking around. No, it wasn't like that at all. We were in this colossal building. So we're set over 3 floors. There's probably, I don't know, a couple of hundred people per floor. So you had the bottom floor was editorial. That was all, you had fishing mags down there. You had the likes of like MCN, the motorcycle newspaper. You had bike, ride, football mags, golf mags, all sorts down there. The middle floor was just hundreds of people that worked in sales, in admin, in HR, in fleet for all the dozens of cars that we were getting through on a daily basis. And then on the top floor, which is where I was, it was just a sea of editors and designers. So again, hundreds of us up there. I mean, to my side, so behind me, you had like garden news, garden answers. You had practical photography to my right, digital photography, rail magazine, model rail, Your Horse magazine, trail running, everything. And it just went all the way down. So you got to imagine there were hundreds of designers just knocking around this place. And so all I had to do was just keep floating around the right place at the right time, watching what they were doing in Photoshop, and just copy them. So it was just, it's just imitation. Imitation is the best form of flattery, and that's all I did.
Yeah.
So
well,
it worked. Yeah, no, it did well for me. It did well for me. Ultimately, I made a bit of a rod for my own back, because I became so good for the photography that I was just being sent out to do the photography and the shop visits. It's like, oh, okay. So now the day is just like 2 jobs instead of 1 job. So yeah, but it was good fun. The photography was it was the best part. But so, for example, a typical image. One of my favourites is the Sorbois Resplendens, the Asian rummy nose pick. I know a few people have taken that, and they've done it as big prints as well. That was about 3 hours of editing just to get that right. And that was a really fortunate shot. That was a pristine tank at that was at a fish show, the Federation of British Aquarium Societies, down in South London somewhere near Heathrow. Can't remember the name of the place. It was a beautifully lucky shot. Conveniently for me, because it was a fish show, all the tanks are literally like this big. They're tiny little cubes. The fish had nowhere to go. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and the whole thing was in a white marquee. So I didn't need a flash or anything. It was just perfectly natural light. The fish posed right in the middle, and it was a dream shot. But yeah, just tidying up. Hours, absolutely hours. And there's images you look at that you just know straight away if you have to give up on. So if you've got a major scratch going straight through the fish, you won't recover that. It's just not going to happen. So
when you say hours recovering it and working on it, what does that process entail?
Mainly removing scratches. That's the key part of it. So everything you're shooting through, when you're shooting fish, you're shooting through a macro lens, so a really big close-up lens. Everything that you can't see on your glass, that macro lens can see. Doesn't matter how clean you think it is, it's smothered in little spots of algae, hundreds of the bastards everywhere. It's smothered in little tiny scratches that you won't even notice with the naked eye. But once you've got a flash on it, once you've got a speed light on it, and once you've got that zooming of the lens, they just show up like bolts of lightning all across it. Yeah. So, and it's just systematically just editing those out. It's literally, you can use, so there's a couple of ways you can do it. There's a cheating way, which is where you can effectively, you lasso the fish. So you isolate the fish by drawing a line around it. You make it a layer, and then you just kind of smooth out. You can just basically soften everything that's behind it. But the fish looks a bit too, I don't know, it looks a bit too punchy for me for that. And it also doesn't work if you've got scratches going across the fish. I used to go at it with the healing tool. So you just have a spot that you can make of any size you need. And as you click a particular part of that picture, it'll just correct it, and it'll try and blend it with whatever's behind on either side. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. If it's a big scratch, you're not going to recover it. But if it's little tiny hairline fractures, you can just spend ages just clicking through and just tidying up. But then even when you zoom in, so for print quality images, if you want something on a cover, you're zooming right in. So you're literally looking at, you've got a full-size screen, like an A4 size screen, but just landscape as opposed to portrait. And in that, you'll maybe have half a dorsal fin. That's how zoomed in you'll be. And you're just picking out all the little bits of dirt, all the little bits of... So, the other thing that... the other thing that you have to pick up a lot of is as soon as you put a flash over the tank to shoot a fish, any tiny bit of dirt or dust or anything that's in that water, it just shows up like a snow globe. So there's thousands, and I mean thousands of little spots everywhere, and they're all over the fish as well. And if you're trying to blow it up to be a front cover fish, you need to get each and every one of those out. Otherwise, it's just an eyesore. So that was a rambling answer, but yeah, there you go.
I like it. We've had a few questions from the floor. We'll just go through these. Rebecca has said you have had someone drinking during the stream. I just used mugs during the interviews. I apologise, Rebecca. Yep, you're right. I'm wrong.
Incidentally,
Rebecca did wine
from
a mug.
Oh, is he gone?
I think he's having a little bit of internet issues where he is today.
Oh, John. Go on, John. Floor's yours.
Can you hear me?
Yep. What were you saying, mate?
I was just saying that when that last comment that Dave can put up about Rebecca drinking, I remember her saying just before she came on to our interview that she drinks wine from her cups. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Check out her YouTube channel as well. It's actually really good. So, she's one of the... So, there's a separate subject for you. Should we get onto YouTubers in a bit?
You just go wherever you want to go. We'll rock it.
Yeah, okay. So, literally, there's like 2 or 3 that I actually have time for. Rebecca's one of them. So, is it Freshwater Ichthyology? Is that a YouTube channel? I think that's what it's called. Oliver Lucanus, his channel Below Water.
Yeah.
Pristine, absolutely pristine. And although I've not really seen much going on there recently, I still find great comfort in going to Ivan McColgee's YouTube channel. Especially his early stuff.
Ivan and Alex did a live stream regarding the diamond tetras earlier this week. That was really interesting.
Yeah, I've got a lot of love for Ivan. When he used to do his riverside biotope setups, they were brilliant. He just literally go to a river, put a tank on the riverbank, get in, and just recreate that. I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, basically everyone else there's exceptions. So if you're in the niche category, so if you're like an aquascaper, I kind of leave those alone. They're doing their own thing. But if it's fishy YouTube, this is kind of hypocritical of me because here's my face on the screen. I don't want to see your fucking face on a screen. I want to see the fish. If you're telling me about a fish, show me the fish. Yeah. If you're poncing around, oh, look at me, oh, I'm so great. Oh, my mate's a fisher. I don't care. Jump under a fucking car. I don't care. Show me the fish. So yeah, YouTubers, just stop. Just don't do it. Okay. It's not big. It's not clever.
It
Very
should
good.
be about the fish. Not about flexing your muscles in front of the fish tank.
Yeah, I've no time for that. I've absolutely no time for that. Like fish keeping personalities. There's a contradiction of terms straight away. So it's like, yeah, just accept we're here to watch the fish. No one cares about you, brother. No one gives a shit. So if you're going to go and do that, just make it about you, but don't try and piggyback it off fish, because we're just not interested. So anyway, rant over. Glad I got that out of my system.
Just quickly, Zena said, please tell us how you really feel.
How do I what? Sorry?
Tell us how you really feel.
Believe me, this is still low fidelity. So yeah, get me in private.
Next comment we've had is from Central Aquatics. The Three Idiots team could learn something from this quality content. I take that to heart because I am one of said Three Idiots.
Oh, bless you.
Basically, I believe he is saying that this is fantastic.
Oh, bless. Thanks, mate.
Luke would like to know what your favourite whiskey is.
Right. So, So, long story short on this one, I can't really drink it anymore. Basically, last Christmas, I got gout. Yeah,
okay.
No idea.
Oh.
Yeah, no, complete pisser. So, to my fame though, I'm the first person in my entire family to ever get gout. So a lot of that is probably down to the amount of tin sardines that I used to eat. So if you've got gout, don't go near tin sardines. They're like the absolute worst. But yeah, one of the triggers for gout is whiskey. So I can't drink it. I've basically had to like put it on a back burner. However, when I was drinking whiskey, I liked a lot of them. The best one for me was the Japanese blended whiskey, Hibiki. That stuff is just, yeah, it's got a subtle nip to it, but it's just, no pun intended, but it's got a subtle, yeah, it's nice.
John, do you have a favourite whiskey while we're talking about it? Or is John gone?
Lefroy.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, he might be gone.
Let's assume he's drinking whiskey right now, eh?
I believe he said Lefroy.
Oh, yeah, Lefroy's good.
Yeah. We've got another question. He's giving us a peace sign. He'll be back.
Where's my question?
From his current thing in the hobby is food. He'd like to say what do you look for in retail food?
I'm not sure I understand the question. As in, are we talking the food I use with the fish in a store, or the fish I'm selling? As in, oh, okay, as in like an off-the-shelf food.
Yeah.
Okay, so my food of choice, and this will really piss a lot of people off, and I don't care, is aquarium flake, simply because in all the years of fish keeping and all the fish keepers I've known who've fed aquarium flake to their fish, they've always had healthy fish. They've had brilliant colours. I think to an extent we overthink food to a large degree. I mean, if you're keeping fish so an awful lot of cichlids are effectively like borderline detritivores. So they're just picking up shit from the substrate. They're literally like sifting out other fish's feces and bits of worm carcass and all sorts of things. So I think anything that we're giving them is, by definition, a sort of an improvement on that. But what I do look for is this is something that bugged me for a while, because it did seem to be a bit of a trend, especially with cichlid diets. There are a few cichlid companies that were doing this for ages. They got obsessed with protein content and just pushing it as far as they could. So I'm like, if you're feeding 55% protein granules to cichlids, it's like, how much of that can they actually metabolize? How much of that are they using? And how much of that is just coming out the other end as ammonia? How much has just been pumped out without being used? So, protein content, I aim for something around about that 35% mark. And that generally does for me. But it's so broad. I mean, there's so many fish. I mean, what are we on now? 34,000 different species of fish, each with their own individual dietary needs. There's no one food that's going to cope for all of those. So, yeah, I think a little bit of research and just see what the fish like. I mean, ultimately, for a community tank, something like aquarium is going to do what you need. If you've got, I don't know, a handful of platies, guppies, some tiger barbs and whatnot, aquarium's going to see you fine for all that fish's natural lifespan. And on that diet, they're going to live a lifespan far longer than they're going to achieve in the wild anyway. So they're going to get bigger, they're going to get plumper, they're going to get more colourful. I just don't think we need to overthink it.
Cool.
So that's that.
Very good. My next question will be, what drove you to pursue a professional career in the fish keeping industry?
Autism.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. So when I got that first piranha at the age of 12, I just became absolutely hyper-focused. There was nothing interested me more than fish. And I think, well, to be fair, my dad could see that as well. Not going to say I was a problem child or was an awkward child or even a weird child, but he'd been steering me towards becoming an accountant. And he could see clearly I had no interest in that whatsoever. So as soon as he saw that I was fixated on fish to the degree I was, he was the guy that was fueling it. So I didn't have money at like 13 years old. He was going through like the so back in the day, you had the free ads papers. You had like the Friday ad come out. And it's just a magazine of just nothing but classified ads. Every week in there, there'd be people giving up on the hobby. It's like two 2-foot clear seal tanks with Rena filters and a metal stand, 20 quid collection only. So he'd race out there and get it for me. Every time he saw a new fish book, he'd get it for me. So he just fueled that. And he just managed to just stoke that hyper fixation to the extent where I just wanted to make it my life. And so, yeah, here I am.
Fantastic.
Kilo.
We've had another comment.
Oh, fuck, that's hideous. Okay.
Stephen said a few more drinks and we can loop back around to YouTubers again.
We're not doing specific names, so I don't know how good your legal team is. So we'll avoid specific people. But
the legal team is me, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no, let's be careful about that. So I don't want to drag you down with me. Yeah, honestly, it's just why. Instagram's going down the same route as well. It's all cult of personality rather than fish keeping. It's like, well, I'm here for fish. So
yeah.
Oh well.
How did you become an editor? Actually, I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. What is the role of an editor at Practical Fish Keeping?
Oh, now we're into dangerous territory. So towards the end, basically everything. Commissioning of articles. So actually, let me put it differently. So when I started, when I first joined PFK back in whatever it was, 2010 or something, I first joined and there was a team of us. So I was working under Jeremy Gay as the editor, brilliant editor, absolutely brilliant guy. We had a full-time designer. We had a full-time sub-editor or copy editor, production editor, and we had someone part-time just doing the web content. So their job, I think it was 3 days a week. They would just come in, they'd scour the internet for the latest news stories, a bit like Fish in the News is doing, and just put those onto the web. So, and over the years, that team dwindled. So as advertisers disappeared and as the money became scarcer and scarcer, all of those roles, bar the designer, sort of fell to yours truly. So towards the end, you're doing all the commissions for the magazine. So you're trying to find what the stories relevant to the day. You're trying to find out who the people are that know about those stories and who can write about them. So who's breeding interesting fish, who's making interesting imports. And then you've got to commission those guys. So you have to do briefs, which means you effectively tell them what you want. So you do a few hundred words, what the title should be, how they should introduce it, all the key points you want incorporated into the body of the text, how they conclude it, and the writing style, and just a few grammatical tips. I was also the production editor. I was the sub. So every bit of copy that came in, I then had to go through that and effectively edit it. So I had to, if it needed redrafting, it would be redrafted. Every single scientific name had to be checked out. So there's a few different sources you use that. Traditionally, Seriously Fish was great, but Matt hasn't really touched that in a few years now. And even Fishbase couldn't keep up with the scientific names. So you'd fall back to Eschmeyer's catalogue of fishes, see what the most valid, up-to-date scientific name is. Even if that was a little bit disputed and you weren't quite sure. So if you had 3 different names, Fishbase one name, Seriously Fish another name, and Eschmeyer's on the third name, you just go back to the person who described that fish. You just tap them up wherever they are. It's like, what is it? Where are we? Where do we stand with this? So it's all time-consuming. It's time-consuming stuff. Then you have to source all the imagery that goes with those features. So that in itself can be an absolute ball ache. So in some cases you have online libraries, so places like Alamy, Shutterstock, and so forth. More often than not, you'll tap in a fish name. So I don't know, Pelvicachromis sacromontis, and you'll look at a page of images and you think, right, 80% of these are wrong, and it's not actually that fish. So you then got to go through and find the exact right fish. So you've then got the images and you've got the word. You can send that, or the copy, sorry. You send that across to the designer. The designer puts it together while you get on with something else, and then it comes back to you. Then you've got to go through it. The next thing is to make it fit. Now, this is the bit I kind of enjoy, but it was also a time-sucking ball ache. So if you look at any page of PFK as it was, you'll see that everything lines up nicely. We don't have. You ever heard of widows and orphans? No, widows and orphans. So that's where you've got, for instance, at the end of a paragraph, you might have like the paragraph will finish, and there'll be one word left right at the bottom. But that might also go on to the next page. So the paragraph might run down to one page, and then at the very top of the next page, you might have like a single word and a full stop. Mm-hmm. That's like an orphan. You've got to get rid of all those. So if you then chop the content down, the other thing, of course, is the designer only takes what she can work with. So there'll be X number of photos, X amount of copy. So you'll get maybe 6 pages back, beautifully designed, but 400 words are over matter. They don't fit on the page. So now you've got to try and find a way to remove 400 words to get those 400 words to fit without fucking up the context. Mm-hmm. That's where it starts to get fucky. That's where it starts to get really confusing. So yeah, you're chopping and chopping, you're changing and changing, and then suddenly you realize you fucked something up and you have to go back a few pages and refix it. Then you get all the captions, got to make sure all the links are in place. Then after that, so all the stuff like payment processing. So that's all. I'll sort that out in a minute. That's going dark. Yeah. So yeah, all the payment processing, all the payments basically fell onto me to work out who got what for what, who was getting what rate for what images. It was just, it's just endless management. And then of course, on the side, on top of all that, you're doing all the social media stuff. So you're looking after, admittedly, I kind of ducked out of the social media stuff quite early on because it was too much to take in, but it was still providing lots of web content, which is all extra time that you just don't have. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just, and of course, the other thing to remember, of course, is that the entire time that deadline does not move. So yeah, you've got to meet that deadline. If you don't go to print on that deadline, it could be a case of the magazine ends there, because the printing press we had at Warner's in particular, they were doing like 600 magazines. It was such a well-oiled machine. Yeah, everything was literally to the second. So if you weren't ready when that roll went on, that's it, you've gone. They're not holding up the other 600 titles just because you're like a day late. So it's like, that's it, your window's gone. Your next chance is next month. That's when you booked in for. So yeah, it was a stress. So with that in mind, if you're sick, you're still at your desk. And because there's no one to cover for you, if you want to take a holiday or if you want to get married, you've got to get everything done before you go, which means you're working like double days. So yeah, I'd frequently be there from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 p.m. at night, quite easily. And you've also got to bear in mind the writers. So some writers were brilliant. Some writers, English isn't even their like second language, let alone their first. So you're trying to take metaphors, similes, and phrases that might mean something in, say, Cambodian or Cameroonian, but they don't translate into English at all. So you're like, go back to the author and like, what does this mean? They'll explain it. And it makes it even fucking worse, because now you're like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying at all. So then you're going to try and like work it out for yourself. Yeah, you lose an awful lot of time just tidying sentences up. So the catch is, so it's very rare to find a fish keeper who can write well, or a writer who writes well who knows about fish. They're two on a Venn diagram. They're just two separate circles. That overlap is extremely rare. So there are a couple of guys that I kept very close to my heart who were precious because they had that gift on both fronts. And again, Ivan McColgie. So he was every article he had was just absolute bliss. I'm guessing you've seen his book, the Fishes of the Orinoco in the Wild.
Oh yeah.
One of my proudest moment was getting the foreword into that. That was such a happy moment for me. But yeah, he was one of those absolute gems. So that would come in, and that was the rare occasion where I wouldn't have to edit it, because I just knew straight away that it was perfect, it was flawless. The only problem I had with it then, which again was a lot of work, was, as I said, it goes to the designer, it would come back to me, and then there'd be like 150 words over matter. And the problem I had then was I didn't want to cut a single word because it was perfect. Yeah. So I'm like, what do I sacrifice out of his story to still make the story work? And that's really
the Corridores one. I mean, how do you crunch that down? That was one of his best stories.
Yeah. If I remember rightly, there wasn't a huge amount of over matter on that one. So that kind of worked out nicely. It was just it was a case of just tidying up. In fact, I think what I did with that one was, as you read through, you've got like subheads. So you'll have like a copy, and then you'll have some bigger letters, just like a heading for the next paragraph. I think I just ripped some of those out to make it fit in. I'm like, do you know what? We don't need the subheads. It just flows nicely. So if I get that, that's 2 lines. That's like an extra 18, 20 words on the page. That's fine. So yeah, but honestly, it was laborious. It was really laborious.
Can we all agree that Ivan's got to be one of the coolest people in fish keeping? And not in the sense of, hey, I'm super cool. Just everything he does is so absolutely immaculately on point.
Yeah,
and
always absolutely.
Position.
Yep. Yeah, love him. Absolutely love him to bits. So yeah, there are a few guys like that I had. Fond memories of my writers. That's definitely one thing I will miss.
As a editor, how do you combat, or can you pick up people using AI quite clearly now?
I can see fucking AI from orbit now. So yeah, flat, grammatically correct, technically imprecise writing. It just sticks out like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, and that was another ball ache. So once the ChatGPT thing became a thing, fuck me, the amount of submissions I had just soared.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, there was some absolute flags straight away. You get a name come in, you'd be like, I don't know, who's Gary Bones? And so you look around, you'd be like, right, first things first, straight on Facebook, because I've got fingers in every pie on Facebook. I've got so many connections on there. If this guy exists in the fish world, he's going to show up as a friend of a friend somewhere. So straight away, if it was an absolute unknown, that was a warning sign. But you've also got ChatGPT detector. So there's just a website. So yeah, just copy paste the first paragraph into ChatGPT detector, and it'll just tell you straight away. It's like, yeah, this is 100% AI. But to be fair, if you're in my role, or if you were in my role, and you couldn't spot it within the first paragraph, you had no position being in my role. So it's just, you can just, it's one of those time served things. So it's like, I guess, It's like antique dealers. How do you spot a fake? It's just time served. They've seen so many of the real thing. They know that there's going to be idiosyncrasies. There'll be perhaps a punctuation. Even the best writers have their own little signature fuck-ups that they make. So they could be beautifully florid writers, but they don't know how to use a semicolon. And that's the thing that will grab you straight away. Be like, that's wrong. That shouldn't be there. And then you know they're genuine. ChatGPT never does that. Never makes those mistakes. If it's grammatically perfect, it probably isn't a fish keeper. simple as that. So yeah.
I'll bring up this question while we're talking about a similar thing. Luke has asked, when I worked at a store, I always got a lot of questions about what plants were. I wrote a plant ID for Complete Beginners article. Is there a way you'd recommend submitting it anywhere for a review?
I wonder if Ivan would help out here again. So, do you know Ivan's just written a plant book? Yeah, might be worth even chatting to Ivan and see what he does. Now, I used to have like contacts in the botany world. Again, by virtue of just being back to back with the guys that worked on Garden News and Garden Answers. So we used to play foosball together in Bower. We do all sorts of stuff together. And they were brilliant plant guys, but I've lost those contacts now. So yeah, on the planty stuff, I'm probably not that much help. I've got to be honest. Ivan's probably your best bet. Who else have we got in the plant world nowadays? We've got Christine Castleman, is it? I think it's Christine Castleman. I don't know if what was the lady who created the sort of almost hermetically sealed self-sustaining ecosystem planting tank? It's called the something method. It was her method. Wallstead, down in Wallstead. Yep. Yeah, might be worth a try. But yeah, when it comes to plants, I'm afraid I'm vague there. I mean, maybe even if you pitch it to guys like Tropica, Denelay, even the guys at Aquadistry or Aquadip, if it's good, it might be something they want to get behind and just produce as like a leaflet, just to have in stores. So maybe. Do you know what? Aim big. Go for someone like Denelay. Go for Tropica, and see if they're keen. Who knows? Maybe something they want to publish.
Cool. Some great advice there. How do you think the fish keeping hobby has evolved since you started?
That's a good question. Has it evolved or has it devolved in certain ways?
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So, right. Have you had anyone smoke on your cast before? We're not going to get pulled off YouTube, are we?
No. I don't know how the YouTube rules work, so...
Right, we're going outside. So
I sent someone a message this morning saying this may or may not be the make or break of us. It might be the live stream that gets cancelled, so we'll see how we go.
Right. Well, to be honest, I've been really well behaved, so I'm going to go as far as this back door, and I'm just going to spark up here. I doubt you can see me. Well, I'll turn that way. Right. How's it evolved? Would we call social media a good evolution of the hobby? So I don't know. I think also, actually, do you know, let's take a step back here. When we're talking about the hobby, are we talking about the collective hobby, or are we talking about the individual hobby? Because those are two very different camps when you think about it. When we think of hobbies, traditionally speaking, a hobby was something that you did. It was like stamp collecting or making model railway sets up in the attic. It was a fiercely isolated and kind of insular thing that you did. It was something that you kept to yourself. It was your way of escaping the world. And I think now, bear with me, that's just not lit. I think now we're all too obsessed with collectivized hobbies. Hobbies don't seem to be personal anymore. They seem to be. Yeah, they seem to be public. So you look at hobbyists, and the highest aspiration of a hobbyist nowadays in so many areas seems to be to get an Instagram following or a YouTube following doing their hobby. It's like, well, that's not really a hobby anymore. That's I don't know, that's public. That just seems to be the antithesis of what a hobby is to me. So, but anyway, speaking from an insular point of view, so the hobby as an individualistic thing, how has it evolved? I mean, technology has come a long way, a hell of a long way. This is still not saying lit. But at the same time, as much as it's got more advanced, the principles are still the same. So if you think about it, we've got external canisters now that effectively they're doing the same job as the external canisters we had in the 1980s. So they're just biomedia, they're sponges, but now they've got Wi-Fi controllability for flow. That's the only real difference. So yeah, I don't know if there has been much evolution, to be honest. The range of fish we've got is better, but at the same time, things are getting more expensive. So I don't know.
What do you think about lighting? Would you say that in itself evolved?
It's just lighting is. So yeah, famously, I went to one of the trade shows and someone was really hyped up. It was one of the aquas at Telford. Someone was really hyped up, and she's sort of doing a little jig outside because we were getting this VIP look at their brand new product, their brand new release. And she's like, "So you excited? You excited to see?" And I remember saying to her, I was like, "As long as it's not another fucking LED." And her face just dropped because that's all she had. That's all the people have been drumming out. And it's just, yeah, LEDs are LEDs. It's a light emitting diode. You've got some controllability with it. It's better than fluorescents that just were on and off. But I don't know. I don't know how much more benefit we're getting from that. I mean, apart from the whole ramping up gradually and ramping down gradually, that's progress. So we're not shocking our fish by turning the lights on suddenly. But yeah, I don't know. From the aquascaping point of view, they've been a bit of a godsend.
A few of our guests have mentioned a light unit with the capacity to type in coordinates for biotop aquariums, and you can tie into the actual scheduled sunrise and sunset of that area.
Okay.
I think that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, that'd be good. The question I'd have to ask there is, would the fish even understand it anymore? So many of these fish are farmed. Are they even going to get it? If it's not a wild caught fish that's actually been brought up in that climate, is it really going to benefit that much from it?
That's
so
true.
if you're an X-ray tetra and your last 300 generations has been in a Singaporean farm, what do you know of like I don't even know what river they come from, but let's say Rio Orinoco for argument's sake. What do they actually remember of the Rio Orinoco like sunrise and sunset? So for wild fish, yeah, it's got potential, assuming they haven't been screwed up too much in the whole interim period of being caught, shipped across, and sat in a retailer's tank for months on end. So I don't know. On the plus side, on the plus side, they are a hell of a lot cheaper than fluorescents. So I remember old Triton tubes at like 55 watts. I wouldn't want to run a 55 watt or a series of like 4 55 watt lamps for 8 hours a day over a tank now. That would not be good. That would not be good at all. So yeah, I would take that low wattage. Thank you.
Even better than the old plastic metal halides.
But yeah, again, so a point in case with the old LED thing. Have we become too over controlled with these things? And have we, by adding more, have we created more problems for ourselves? So point in case, I won't say the brand because I'm not going to come name and shame. I've got an LED unit on my aquascape that was in the dark tonight. Part of the reason it's in the dark is I've had 3 fucking warnings off the thing today. It sent me emails saying, "Oh, there's an error with your system." I'm like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just sat on the tank." So yeah. The more you add, the more there is to go wrong.
Yeah, I agree. When we must be talking about 10 years ago now, I was at a trade show type thing, and I was speaking to someone in New Zealand that does a lot of work along education in the industry and training big chain stores.
Okay.
And he was very, very keen on the idea that we're devolving because everyone's trying to make it simpler and not getting back to the root causes of things. Like you were talking about earlier with the ammonia at the softer water and all that sort of stuff. He's like, people are just not even paying any attention to that now. So in a sense, we're going backwards, but in a sense, we're going forwards because there's more information around at the same time. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
But at the same time, are we again overwhelmed with contradictory information? So I fear for newcomers nowadays. So many guys go into the store and they're like, okay, we'll go away and research it. I'm like, you're going to look at 3 different websites and they're going to tell you 3 different things. So there's very little uniformity. I think part of the problem is there's a lack of uniformity of information in fish keeping. Yep. It's almost like one of those hobbies that's just entirely subjective. So some people have had, again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about the whole difference between North and South in the UK. What works in the North won't work in the South and vice versa. But so if someone's researching and they're looking at how to establish a tank, and they're looking at some guy who's had roaring success in the North, maybe doesn't even understand what ammonia and nitrite is, they follow his information and they're in somewhere like central London, it's going to go completely tits up. So yeah, I think the wealth of information has just become, it's the same with everything, it's just become confusing, it's become a bit overwhelming.
So being that your previous role was very critical on correct information, where do you feel is really good sources of good quality critical information?
Seriously Fish is excellent. So again, it's the sad thing about Seriously Fish is I don't think Matt Ford has the time to update it anymore. But in its day, everything on there was it was beautiful. So he was using original research papers, I believe, to find out things like water chemistry that the fish were caught in. It was an absolute hub of information. In some niche areas, you've got things like Planet Catfish, brilliant source of information if you're into catfish. We could do with something of that caliber across each of the major families. We could do with like a Planet Anabantoid or a Planet Karasin, a Planet Cichlid. You've got the it's not Cichlid Press. There is a Cichlid site out there. It's a subscription thing. You have to actually sign up to it. That's very good. I've completely forgotten the name of it, to my shame. But yeah, we just need more. What we need is static authors who are accountable. So with like the Catfish Study Group, I know Ian Fuller, brilliant guy with catfish. So yeah, he's putting all the information down there. With Planet Catfish, you've got Julian Dignall at the top. Yep. So he's vetting everything that's coming through. It's not a information by democracy kind of thing. It's being vetted. And it's being vetted by someone who cares. And I think we just need more of that. But yeah, Seriously Fish is great.
While we're talking
on it now, though.
Sorry, you both went at me then. I didn't catch that.
So just in Seriously Fish has got far too many ads on the site now.
Okay, I've not been in it for the last couple of months, I don't think. But yeah, it used to be amazing. On my phone, I think the last time I used it, I did get a lot of pop-ups that were just blocking the view. Which again, it's a shame.
Yeah, it's a website I use whenever I've been doing fish profiles for Cam on his website. I like the way the information's formatted. It's easy to just, you've got it at the top and then it breaks it down bit by bit, and then you've got the comment section and then the notes. It's really good. Yeah,
it's easy to follow. It's very easy to follow.
While we're sort of talking about catfish, Luke would like to know your opinion on the family Corydoridine.
Corydoridine. Well, it's just been revised, hasn't it? The whole thing's just been revised. And yeah, in my smugness, I was one of the few people that bothered to learn all the names, so I feel a little bit. I feel a bit sanctimonious about that. I know my osteogasters from my hoplosomas now. Yeah, I mean, it was long overdue, and the guys have been working hard on it. Whether it'll eventually spread through to the common dialect, I don't know. Everyone's a newcomer who's still using Corydoras for everything. They have no idea. This information's not been disseminated through. But I think we'll slowly get there. It was the same with, if I go back to the early days, it was the same with cichlids. Everything was cyclosoma. And over the years, they started breaking them down to different genera. And those have started to stick. So we know our Amatitlania, we know our Cryptoheros. yeah, all of these things back in the day were all sickness over. It's just time. It's just disseminating through. It does tidy up, but I understand that there's still more work to do. So when I looked at it, the thing that stuck out most for me was the fact that Brochus, which originally was like 5 or 6 species, suddenly became fucking huge. Just like all the corridors they weren't sure about. It's like, fuck it, just put them in Brochus. We'll worry about that later. And I'm like, well, now Brochus doesn't make sense because Brochus are these big birdy bastards with, like Brochus multiradiatus and Brochus splendens, obvious big chunky bastard fish, and that's like just Corys in there. So, but that would just be a future division. I know they're struggling. I did have some insider information from Liz Tencat, who'd been working on this, and that was like the one sticking point. That was the one confusing one was Brochus. I can't remember the reasons why though, because I'm like 4 pints and several tequilas in. I don't remember. So, and maybe about to be another tequila in. So,
yeah, you do you, boo.
Damn right.
We have had another question.
Hit me.
What are your thoughts on cute little pufferfish?
Fuck them all. So there's very few pufferfish that do. Pufferfish have been getting a free lunch for decades because they've got these cutesy boggly eyes and they're all a bit friendly. They're just dicks. They're just absolute dicks. It's like, oh, put it with anything. Oh, I'm just going to eat this. I'm just going to strip its fins off. I'm just going to eat it from the arse end upwards. It's like, what is the point? So to me, they are the fish keeping equivalent of the reptile industry. Okay, it's one of those things. You'll set up a tank. You'll get a puffer in the same way you'll set up a viv and you'll get a bearded dragon, and then you're stuck with it. It's like you're now screwed for the next few years. You're just stuck with that one fish. Anything you put with it, it's just going to get torn to shreds. So if you think like the is it Powell Bailey eyes, the ones that literally like lurk on the bottom, like the pig nose puffers. I don't even want to put my hands in that tank because they just come up and do damage. They're horrendous. It's like, and you want that as a pet? Why? Just an absolute waste of time. So the only decent ones, you've got Colomesus. I'll give them a bit of a pass because they're kind of cute and they they don't bother everything too much. They just keep themselves. And the little what is it? Carinotetraedon? The little pygmy puffers. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those kept with guppies and stuff before, and they were just harmless. All they cared about was like anything that was wriggling on the substrate, like worms. So they get a pass, but big puffers, just pointless, absolutely pointless. It's sort of like you're moving into like that monster fish category. Then it's like, oh, I'm going to get like a couple of Cichla ocellaris. Like, oh wow, no, what else are you going to do? You can't do any fucking things. You've got Cichla ocellaris in there. Well done. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Another question from the floor. Do you think there is a correlation between drinking and fish keeping? Maybe something in the siphon water?
I think there's a correlation between rave refugees and aquascaping. And I say this as someone who's studied that kind of area with some detail. If you look at the aquascapers of today, the aesthetic aquascapers, they've got disposable income. They all seem to be in a certain sort of age range. An awful lot of them are like refugees of that MDMA rave era. And I know that for a fact because I know an awful lot of them. It's like, you were pinheads back in the day. Why have you gotten into aquascaping? And why does it appeal to me so much? I was there in the day, and it's like, so yeah, there is a link there. I know an awful lot of teetotal aquarists though, and they are some of the most boring bastards I've ever met. If I'm going to be honest, they nerd out over fish, but that's all they nerd out over. And it's like, I've been to their houses in the evening. It's like, should we do something fun? Should we put some music on? It's like, no, let's just talk about my Thorixis for a few hours more. I'm like, oh God, have you got any like rat poison in the house I can drink? So yeah, the fun aquarists drink, and the wankery ones make YouTube channels all about themselves. So.
Yeah.
All right, so
fucking hell.
I should know every
Oh.
time you're about to take a shot. I need to give you a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds.
Jesus, fuck, it's hideous. I'm not even doing it with salt and lime because I haven't got any limes. I've got lemons, but that's just not going to work. It's going to be atrocious. Oh,
What inspired you to create and publish your magazine, Fish?
So that one, if we is it in shot here? Let me just move this around a bit. So I don't know if you can see. So that rack there is all independent, quirky, off-the-shelf magazines. They're all a bit punky. They're all a bit different. So as much as I was a fish person, I was massively into writing in a huge way. Hence, I jumped from Maidenhead and I did the freelance journalism thing. At that time, what I really wanted to do was National Geographic-esque kind of pieces. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to learn photography, and I wanted to write these wonderful, creative, non-fiction pieces. That never happened, by the by. But I became addicted to independent, small print run, quirky, punky magazines. It's one of my other collections. There's boxes outside. It's just they're everywhere. They're all over the place. And so I saw that fishkeeping, all the fishkeeping magazines, not even fishkeeping, all the fish-based magazines that had existed were all very stuffy, factual, flat. They were very boring publications. And I was just like, there's got to be something here that's a little bit quirky, off the wall, independent, irreverent, and fun. Trying to put the fun back into fishkeeping, because it hadn't been fun in fishkeeping. It was just stuffy, especially around the time I first conceived fish, which is actually going back about a decade. That was when the idea first came to me. Everything was so fucking dry. It was boring. It was really, really boring. And I at that time I stumbled across, it was actually a food magazine called Lucky Peach out of America, and it was a cooking magazine by a guy called David Chang and Peter Meehan. David Chang is he owns a chain of restaurants, Momofuku restaurants over in New York. It's basically ramen bars. And Peter Meehan was a food columnist for, I want to say, the New York Times, one of the major players there. And they just decided to get together and make something that was just fun and irreverent. So in the light of things like the Sainsbury's magazines, Delicious magazine, all these stuffy food mags, they did something that was really enjoyable. And it was kind of like, if you're familiar with Hunter S. Thompson, he did what was something that was called gonzo journalism. So when he wrote about something, he immersed himself into it. So if he was writing about a car race, he'd go and get a car and he'd race the fucking thing. He'd be involved in the car race. And I was like, that's what they were doing in Lucky Peach. They were like, so we want to learn about, I don't know, a sous chef. They get a job as a sous chef and then just write about that. But they write about it creatively, and it was fun. And it was like warts and all. It was everything. And I thought, well, why don't we do this with fish keeping or with fish in general? So, I just wanted to do something punky, different, but most of all, something that was fun, something that hadn't been done before. And so, that's how Fish came together. And the first issue was delayed for so long simply because I was desperate to get one artist on board, a guy called Toothis. Is this going on YouTube afterwards? Right. So if I point about there, stick a link up to Toothis's Instagram. The man is an artistic genius, and I desperately wanted him to do the cover work, and I wanted to do a feature on his work in the magazine. Fuck me, he was hard to get hold of and really hard to communicate with. He would just go completely silent for like 3-4 months at a time, and everything was hanging on this guy. So eventually I got Toothis on side. He gave me the green light. He gave me massive resolution images. I mean, if I printed these things out, they would cover my entire front of my house. They were fucking huge images. And at that point, it was absolute green light, and it was fun. It was really, really fun. It was exhausting because bear in mind what I'd said before about the all the work I was doing on PFK. So I was doing the subbing, I was doing all the image sourcing, I was doing the editing, I'm doing the proofreading. On top of that, that was still part of the day job. So I'm literally giving up my evenings. I'm giving up my weekends. I was doing like 7 days straight for months at a time just to make that happen. And of course, there was constraints to the budget because it's an early launch. We only had so much money to throw at it. Because I wanted it to be on high quality paper, and because I wanted to go, I was being a dick. I went for a slightly quirkier size. That means a lot of wastage. It means it's expense. It's absolute expense. The paper comes off a roll. The more you trim, you're still paying for the roll. So if you want to do a magazine that wide, you're paying for a roll that's that wide. But I wanted this quality paper of a certain shape. It had to be a certain feel. And for me, the thing was, in an age where increasingly we were just going to online for chaff writing, I wanted that sit-down reading experience, something that was physical to have in your hand that was fun and that was different. So yeah, that's how Fish came about.
I remember you talking to me about the paper. That paper is another one of your passions, isn't it? Handwriting on real proper paper.
Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah. So just before we go any further, I just got a message from Andy Lister, and he told me to let you know that he's watching.
Fucker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask him Melissa, where's my fucking curry? You promised me a spicy arsehole, and I still haven't had it. So where's my curry? Ask him that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well.
So when you're talking about the whole paper and writing thing, so I'm massively into. So when I was first with, she was my fiance, my girlfriend at the time. We used to spend. I used to spend many hours a night just writing with a literally dip pen and ink, just slowly writing over parchment paper. Yeah, it was a long and slow process. Very proud of those days. Very proud of my writing.
Yeah. Another one of the passions that we spoke about on the odd occasion that you had time to chat was your tinned fish obsession.
Should we go have a look?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's see how the collection's getting on. So let's head through. I'll have to spin you around here and hopefully it will come in. It's a little depleted at the moment, but it's kind of looking. Hold up, let me spin around here.
Wow.
You see that? You see that bad boy? There's some absolute gems on here. Let me come back a bit. Let me do that from there. There we go. Yeah, there's some absolute gems in here. The pinhide stuff, the Nuri sardines. I don't know if I'm pointing right. Nuris are absolutely outstanding. The Don Reynaldos, I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah.
They're like 12 quid a can for those bastards. They're really good. The selection pinhais, these are basically the premium sardines, like the best catch of the year that are canned up and kept separate to the other fish. Yeah, there's all sorts going on there. But again, based on what I said earlier, I've had to cut back on it because sardines, mackerel, it's the absolute worst thing you can have for gout. It's absolutely full of purines. It really messes you up. Let's slap this back in here. So yeah, one of my great loves is denied to me. Here we go. I still have them. Don't get me wrong. I still, no. Don't get me wrong. I still dive into cans of those things. So I just make sure the gout medicine's kind of to hand.
Balancing you out.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple more questions, both quite relevant to the topic we are talking about, not canned fish, that is. Are you going to do any freelance writing for magazines or online? You'll surely feel the need to pass on what you learn.
No. So I won't be doing any freelance writing for other publications simply because at the moment I'm just enjoying life too much. And if I'm going to be really fucking candid, I'm still recovering. I'm still absolutely recovering. When I left PFK, I was fucked. Absolutely fucking exhausted. Only now, a few weeks later, am I starting to get coherent thoughts. I can read again in the evening. That was something I couldn't do when I was with the magazine. My head was just too screwed. And so for the time being, I'm giving it 6 months. And then I've already got funding. So one of the flattering things that happened after I left PFK was messages from people I didn't even know. So a couple of guys tapped me up and basically said, if you want to do your own thing, you want to do your own magazine, we'll back it financially. And I was like,
Wow.
there's a discussion we can have, but we're not going to have it now because I'm absolutely screwed. I'm exhausted. My head isn't working properly. I need to get back into the whole feel of writing for pleasure. So in the all I'm doing at the moment, so I'm sketching ideas down. There's a couple of novella ideas I've got, and a couple of. So one of my other things, way back in the day, one of my things I used to do was write short stories, write fiction. So multiply published all over the place with these short stories, quirky stories, surreal stories, very dark stories. And after a few months, I want to get back into that. I want to get back into creative writing. And then eventually, probably about a year's time from here, I'm going to look at doing something a bit like Fish, but a whole lot punkier and quirkier. So yeah, all I can say is watch this space on that one. There will be something. It will be eccentric, to say the least. So yeah, I've already been looking at different types of paper. I've been looking at. Let me just see. Bear with me. Give me just 5 seconds, guys. Let me just see if I can find one typical example.
Let's do the standard YouTube thing. If you're enjoying the stream, give it a like. Don't forget to follow. Blah 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 blah. Cool.
So this is a typical example of like one of the unusual mags I've got in. Yeah, with the weird ass. It's just like that the whole way through, but it works. It's funky. It's different. The paper smells beautiful. It feels beautiful. Everything about that mag is just amazing, and it's totally off the wall. It's batshit. It's bonkers, and I love it. So yeah, when I get back into the publishing side, it's going to be. Fish was it was creative, but it was quite sensible. What I want to do next is something that's absolutely off the rails. Think KLF, but just in printing terms. Cam, I don't know if you're familiar with KLF, but yeah.
No. KLF.
So it's a musical group through the 90s. Yeah, just went. So yeah, it was what was his name? Bill Drummond.
Just
absolutely bonkers. Yeah, absolutely bonkers. But they made fun music. They made great music. They didn't care about any conventions at all. They did what they did. At the height of their, Cam, you'll love this. At the height of their success, was it? John, you might remember this. Was it the Brit Awards? It was one of the major awards.
It was the Brit Awards, yeah. It
was the Brit Awards. So when they turned up, they were so they did electronica. They did like sort of dancey music, and they were asked to do a version of their tune for the audience. So they turned up. They basically got this complete amateur punk rock band to do a cover of their tune. Well, Bill Drummond comes out and just screams. He's literally on crutches with like a taped up leg, screaming, finishes the set, throws the mic aside. He's got an M16 full of blanks, just fires it above the crowd. And then the last announcement is KLF announced their retirement from the music industry. Literally, as they peaked, he's like, fuck this, we're off, we're done. So that's the kind of level of punkiness that I want in this next magazine. It's like, if it succeeds, fuck it, I'm done. I'll walk away after that. Yeah, cool. literally.
So one of the things about Fish magazine, one of the things about Fish magazine was that it wasn't just about fish keeping. It was about anything to do with fish, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a key thing. That was one of the key things with Fish. So one thing I understood from my own life is that if you're a fish keeper, you love everything fishy, absolutely everything fishy. And I was like, again, no one's catering to this. So, there's a huge, again, if you do the Venn diagram, there's a massive crossover between the amount of fish keepers that are also anglers. I was like, let's get some angling stuff in there. Let's get some actual stories of guys that are catching commercial fishermen. Let's get everything fishy. There was fish music in issue 2. There was fish art, anything related to fish. And I was just like, if you're a fish person and you're in it for the long run, then this is the sort of stuff that's going to appeal. And yeah, I was delighted with Fish. Really happy with it. But it just needed to be punkier. I couldn't do that while I was using someone else's money to make the magazine. That was the key thing. As long as they were paying for it, I had to. I mean, I couldn't use the word. Oh, we haven't used this word yet. I couldn't use the word cunt in the magazine. just an absolute. I think I got one fuck in there. In my short story at the back, I think I got a fuck in there. I think I got a shit, and I think I got a bastard. But yeah, the next one, it's going to be like an Ian Kelman novel. There's just going to be swearing everywhere. It's just going to be so much fun. It's just going to be literally as two people talk to each other in a pub. There's going to be a lot of that, and it's going to be gonzo as fuck. So if I'm going to be reporting on something like a fishing boat, I'm getting on that fishing boat. So get me on there with a camera. I'll throw my guts up and I'll record it. But that's what people want to read. So yeah,
It sounds like a good time.
damn right.
Yeah, cool. I think there's a bit of an inside joke running in the chat, so I feel I should bring it up just for the sake of it. Are you back with another shot of tequila?
It better be fucking funny. Where is it?
Well, I don't know if it's a joke or not. Now you're gone from PFK, who is watching Pax Medley.
Who's watching Pax Medley? No one's watching Pax Medley. Pax Medley is his own entity, and he is untamable. You cannot. Oh fuck me, that's wet. You cannot control Max Pedley. So yeah, just watch that, man. That one of the understated guys, actually. So when I talked earlier about when I spoke of Ivan McColgy being one of those few perfect writers that you get, so they understand the written word, and they understand fish. Max was another one. So when his stuff came in, there was maybe the occasional clumsy sentence. It took minimal work. It was just move that word to there. That suddenly makes it a lot clearer. Whack a comma in. He was genius as writers go. And again, he wrote from the heart. So it was all very true. It was all very pure with Max. A lot of love for that man. An awful lot of love.
Cool.
Just rolling a smoker. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just literally rolling a thing.
Talking about Max Pedley, I've been chatting to him about getting him online for an interview as well. He may well be joining us for a live stream at some point soon.
Okay. He doesn't drink though, so
he might after a live stream. But after this one.
He's he's brilliant. He's teetotal. There's not much you can tell that man about live food. That man is an absolute whiz with live food. It's pretty unbelievable. His own fish tanks are enviable. I actually went to see him many years ago when he was still like wet behind the ears. I might do him a disservice. I don't remember how young Max was when I first went to see him at his house, but he was very much a whippersnapper. But my God, his tanks, and maybe not even so much his tanks, but the amount of breeding that was going on in his little fish room. So it was something, if I remember rightly, it was in the garage. It was like a side room off the garage. So it was breeze block. I think he might have king spanned it, might have insulated it. Every tank was breeding. Every tank just had fry. And these weren't like run-of-the-mill fry. This was like unusual epistogrammas that were all spawning in abundance. So yeah, he's if you can get him on, then so be it. But he won't get pissed.
He's selling live food now, isn't he? That for a business.
Well, amongst other things, yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. They did have a stab at the wholesale industry. I don't know entirely what happened there, but from what I know from other people who've worked at, because again, I've known a few people in this. From what I know from other people that have worked in the wholesale industry, trying to get retailers in this country to pay on time is just shocking, absolutely shocking. So yeah, fair play to the man for sticking out as long as he did. But yeah, brilliant mind. If you can get him involved, absolutely brilliant mind.
Cool. Right, we've had another question. Do you think hobbyists have a role in conservation, like in the GWG/BLA on a global scale? Will it make a difference?
So, obviously, you've got two types of conservation that take place. One, I think, is absolutely doomed to failure, and it's just posturing. The other one has some mileage. But whether hobbyists have anything to do with the one that has some mileage is a different matter. So you've got. Are you guys familiar with in situ and ex situ conservation?
Nope, but you're about to teach us all about it.
Okay, so in situ conservation is where if I went 100 yards down the road here to where the stream is, and they were looking at developing, I know, some new houses down there, and I protested it, and I made a big case that the fish in that river need to be preserved, and I did everything I could to preserve this 200-meter stretch of river. That would be in situ conservation. It's where the fish are in their natural habitat. And then you've got ex situ conservation, which is where you take the fish out of the habitat and you effectively just keep it in aquaria, in limbo, until such a time as its habitat is recovered, and then you can reintroduce the fish. Right. So the ex situ part kind of comes crashing down in an awful lot of cases because you get the fish out of its habitat never comes back. So it's like, okay, so now we're doing is we're posturing, we're in the hobby, we've got all these, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good case, Amica splendens. So you've got all these fish floating around inside the aquarium, extinct in the wild. Can we get them in the habitat? No, we can't. It's a fucking parking lot now. So it's never going to exist again. You know, it's literally just, it's a multi-plaza. It's got a fucking Gap store in it and a Walmart. So that river's fucked. It's gone forevermore. What's the point now of keeping that species in existence? Maybe I've just ruffled some feathers with that. I don't care. But yeah, that's the side that the home aquarists can get involved with, the ex situ. So you take it out of the environment, and all you're doing is you're keeping the bloodlines going until such a time as they can be. There's problems with that. So, will the fish evolve in your aquaria in the meantime so that they can go back? So there was a case, I want to say it was at London Zoo. I can't remember if it was London Zoo or London Aquarium. Somewhere in London, they had a load of, I think it was haplochromine cichlids that they pulled out of the lake. I can't remember which lake. I apologise for that. But basically the lake was fucked. It was being ravaged, I think, by Noel perch, amongst other things. So they got the last of these fish out, they put them in an aquarium, and they kept them in there for multiple generations. And then some bright spark, X generations down the line, was like, okay, well, let's just have a look at one. Let's just taxonomically open it up and just have a look inside. And when they did that, when they had a look inside the fish, they're like, well, the problem we've got now is because they've been living off flake for the last 15, 20 years, all the pharyngeal teeth, all the throat teeth have now evolved to eat flake. Okay? So even if the lake exists and we stick them back in and they normally feed on snails, they can't eat fucking snails now because all the pharyngeal teeth now are designed for flake. So you put them back in, they're just gonna fucking starve. So it's a bad case, should we say. Perhaps I'm picking on the worst of all cases, but it doesn't paint a good picture for the whole ex situ conservation thing. In situ is the way forward. The problem with that is then you're fighting governments, you're fighting industries, and if you've got, I don't know, if you've got some Indian stream somewhere that has one particular species of Pontius in it, and it's only found in 300 yards of river or stream, but it also happens to be like the perfect ground for palm oil, palm growth, and they look at it, they're like, well, you're exporting £1,000 worth of these Pontius every year, whereas if we flatten the area down, we'll get 250,000 in palm oil. So straight away, it's going to be an absolute no-brainer. Any government's just going to be like, do you know what? Fuck the fish. Let's just fill it with palm. That's what you're up against. That's the sort of thing you're looking at on a global level. It's numbers. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. And all conservation just relies on keeping the fish, or what is you're trying to conserve, more profitable than the alternatives. Which is, I mean, the only real one I can think of off the top of my head is Project Piaba. Down in Brazil. Yeah. So it's like, look, cardinal tetras are still more profitable than hack and slash, raise it to the ground and use it for growing soy and then subsequently beef. It just makes sense at the minute. How much longer is it going to make sense though? That's the thing. Especially if you start to see, so something that could pull the rug out from under that in a heartbeat would be if you had So let's say someone just came along and said, look, we've just worked out a way we can introduce pituitary extract and massively breed cardinal tetras so we can produce 5 million cardinals a year in a pond in, I don't know, Hungary. And they're going to be 15 pence each once landed into the UK. It's like, okay, suddenly those wild piaba fish that are costing more than that, they don't seem so attractive anymore. And then, so the sales dwindle, and before you know it, the loggers are in. Cheap corned beef for everyone. So,
We actually had somebody on from Project Piaba a couple of weeks ago.
Was it Scott? Was it?
No.
Jackie.
Okay, yeah.
She was talking about that.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
the hardest part is getting the fish keeper to understand the value of a wild caught fish and the benefit it has following it back up money.
Yeah, and that's where you're doomed. That's where, in the UK, that is where you're absolutely doomed, because the fish keeper, by and large, not every fish keeper, because there's a small percentage, maybe 15% that are ethically minded. I pluck that 15% completely out of my arse. But the majority, all they care about is the bottom line. Is it £2 a fish or is it £6 a fish? Yeah. And if you get £2 a fish, they're going to buy your fish and fuck the £6 a fish. So, yeah, the bottom line every single time. I know it sounds depressing, but it's money. It's always going to be money. So, yeah, it's always got to be affordable. I'm just going to grab a cider. You're coming with me.
All right. While you're doing that, there seems to be a battle between the two Joshes in the chat, but this Josh would like to know, how do you pronounce Bircher?
Well, I mean, it depends where you're from, isn't it? So, obviously, I know who this is. It's Josh. The absolute correct way, of course, is biker. That's got to be the only way you can pronounce it. But yeah, as he put in his book, it's pronounced Bashir. I think, actually, I'm interested here. If you're able to get Josh back at the moment, I'm interested in how he pronounces the scientific name, because I maintain to this day. So, do you know what Bashirs are, guys? You know what the fish is? Yeah. Yep, those long, snaky. Yep. How would you? Let's start with you, John. How would you pronounce the scientific name for that? Do you know what it is? Are you forgiven if you don't, because it is a tongue twister?
Not at the top of my head, no, but I'll find out.
Cam, do you want to give it a try? Do you know what it is?
Not a clue. Okay,
so most people call it polypterus, because if you look at it, it looks like polyp and terrace.
That's how I pronounce it. Terrace.
Polypterus. Yeah. So, but I'll maintain to my dying breath, and I'll literally fight Josh over this. If you're up for it, Josh.
You're in for a lot of fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 5 ciders in, so yeah, I'm fine. So, but if you think about it, it's 2 words. So the word actually means, I think it's many fins. So poly is many, and then terrace, same as like angelfish, terraphyllum or pterodactyl, which I think ptero actually means wing rather than fin. But yeah, many wing, many fin. Poly terrace is a scientific name for the Bashirs. But everyone still wants to call them polypterus. Now that may seem like a weird hill to die on, but I don't have many other hills. So,
another question from the other Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular aquatic conglomerate? I don't think I'm allowed to use the name of the companies, but it's another word for water that seems to be taking the industry in the UK by storm. What are your views on that?
No, I don't really know any. I'm going to be brutally honest. So I've heard a couple of names in recent years. I don't know of anyone that's really taken it by storm. Simply by definition, if they're taking it by storm, I'd have heard of them. So yeah, I don't know on that one. I think I still think we're very fragmented as a hobby. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not even sure that's a bad thing, because to me, the hobby should be something that's individualistic rather than conglomerated. Oh.
All right. question that we had really is, how do you feel about being considered a significant figure in today's fish keeping world?
I'm not. It's as simple as that. I'm literally just an everyday Job who is in the right place at the right time, and I'll maintain that as well to my dying day. So everything, if you think about my whole career, when I gave you that whistle stop tour at the start, everything about it was luck. It was luck. I was in the right place at the right time, and things were happening just at the time that I joined certain companies. But
how do you feel about? I mean, obviously, the editor of PFK, especially in the UK, PFK was regarded, a benchmark, and you were the man at the top of that bench, so to speak. And how did you deal with that? Going to any kind of fish event?
No, I'm just a lucky bastard. I'm literally just. I wouldn't say I could list you off so many fish keepers that know so much more about the industry and the hobby than I do. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and that was it. So I think all the editors, with one exception, but I won't name names, all the editors that were before me were much better than I was. So Jeremy Gay, legendary. Karen Youngs, absolutely legendary. If you go right back, Steve Dawes, I think it was Steve Dawes, Nick Fletcher, absolutely legends of their days. And the late Matt Clark, bless him, was unbelievable. That man's fish knowledge, untouchable. Jesus fucking Christ. Why he just didn't go down the ichthyologist path is beyond me. So, no, I was just in the right place at the right time. I remember, of course, that I fought tooth and nail not to be the editor. I didn't want it. I did not want that position. All I wanted to be was a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So no, there's nothing celebrity about me. I wouldn't want to be a celebrity. If I was going to do, for argument's sake, so people have said, like, why don't you do like a YouTube series? I'm like, well, partly because I fucking hate YouTubers, present company accepted, and myself, of course. But if I was going to do that, it would be very Keith Floydy. It would be all about. Do you remember Keith Floyd? John, do you remember Keith Floyd? Yep. The old TV Cam. You probably don't know Keith Floyd.
Not a clue.
Do yourself a service. Do yourself a service this evening. Look up some Keith Floyd YouTube videos. The man was a chef, but he reinvented the way that TV cooking was done. And for him, it was all about the food. He became like an accidental personality on the back of it. And he hated that title. He hated being known as like Keith Floyd or Floydy. He just wanted to be a chef. He wanted to be a cook. I just want to be an aquarist. That's all I've ever wanted to be. I want to be a fish keeper. And on the side, I want to be a writer. I'd rather write in anonymity. I'd rather my name wasn't on the things that I wrote. So celebrity's not for me.
We have had a comment from Helen. The comment is, I'm just a lucky bastard is the perfect title for a biography.
It would be the sweariest biography ever written, unfortunately. And it would be, sadly, it would be full. It would have a lot of anger in it. So there's been a lot of good times, but I've also been, there are times I've been ashamed of this industry. I've seen some of what I consider the best aquarists in the industry leave out of disgust. So again, I won't name names, more for their sake rather than anything else. But yeah, some of the best fish keepers I've known have, they just couldn't stand what it was becoming.
We have had a comment from Shah who says, "It's glad to see you are happy again."
So yeah, Shah remembers me at my lowest. My overwork days when I was literally doing those 7-day weeks, it was exhausting. Honestly, it was. If you're going to be a fish keeping editor in the magazine world, you need a lot of energy, an awful lot. I'm just too old for it now. I just don't have those energy reserves. And the other thing, a bit of salient advice, actually, for anyone, whether you're going to be, and I fucking hate the word, but if you're going to be a creator or an influencer, or especially if you're going to be a fish keeping writer, you've got to have a very thick skin, a really, really thick skin. Criticisms will come in hard and fast all the time. And yeah, you just need to be robust and learn how to ignore them.
Oh, definitely.
And I do wonder. I do wonder if that's like going to be a bit of a symptom of the whole influencer create. Remember we said earlier about the cult of personality, the whole YouTuber thing. It's all about them. I wonder how much mental illness we're going to see years down the line when these people are just getting attacked every time they make a mistake because they don't have that thick skin because they can't handle it.
Yep.
There we go. Let's lose that.
Yeah, savage. Online community is savage at times.
There we go. Right.
Ryan's just brought up nothing says happiness like drinking in the dark alone, talking about tropical fish. Amen, brother.
I'm not in the dark anymore. God damn it! I'm back indoors.
You're also not alone.
I'm back indoors. So actually, she's fucked off. I was going to say my wife's with me, but she's fucked off. I think she's gone to bed. And yeah, I've still got tequila. I've still got tobacco. So yeah, the night is young. All is going to be good. Any more questions for me, gents?
Yeah, I've got heaps.
Anything spicy?
I'm sure the spicy ones I put on at the end there. I'll have a
yes, Josh. All right, again. So, have I revealed where I'm working yet, Josh? So again, for you, so if we can put a link to the website somewhere up there. So I'm working at the fish room in Brookside Garden Centre. Not your fish room. The fish room in Brookside Garden Centre at the top end of Poynton. And I've honestly never been happier. It's absolute bliss there. I've got there's a superb team that I'm working with. Like I say, so we've got there's my co-worker, there's Amy, who's just passionate about all things fish. She's just a delight to work. I think she's like a key part of why I get such a buzz from it, because she's so enthusiastic and happy about everything. She just keeps me going. And like I say, John, the owner, so much in so many ways he's like me. I literally, one of the joys of working there when John's in is I get to turn off. I don't have to be me because he's being me already. He's doing and saying the things that I want to say and doing the things I want to do. He's there doing that, and all I have to do is just ride on his coattails. I just have to be a passenger while he's doing that. It is absolute bliss. So yeah, it's a wonderful little place. The trop side, it's a little scant at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of interesting fish in there. We're still in summertime, so it's still pond oriented. There's loads of koi sales at the minute. There's loads of goldfish sales and blah blah blah. But as the autumn months start to creep in, I hope to expand my role as a curator of tropical fishes there, and start to make that range much more exciting. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months to follow. So see what we can really do with that place. See if we can get the fish house as exciting as the dry goods area. But it's all very good fun.
We've got another question from the watchers. I'll bring this up and ask it, and then I'll just shoot off for 2 minutes and be back in a second. Question is, so are the likes of green neon tetras, bleeding hearts, and some of the other almost unbreedable tetras contributing to conservation, or are they not big enough business like cardinal tetras are?
So again, you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So is the revenue that they're producing from their wild capture enough to justify not destroying other parts of that environment? I mean, I'd like to think so. By virtue of them still being a thing, by virtue of them coming in, I'd like to think that that's still enough of a response to warrant their continuation.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm all for ex situ wherever those fishes can be brought in at a high enough value to justify them over alternatives. God, let's keep that going. Let's keep those regions of habitat for the fish rather than something that's just going to destroy them forever. So let's keep with that.
Well, if you look at the supply chain, I think it's key that the exporter is the one that can, if they can take the impact of the additional cost of getting the wild caught and not hand that down the chain, then us as fish keepers at the other end shouldn't really notice much difference.
Well, hopefully. So yeah, I mean,
that way, but
yeah, I mean, it all depends on how much they're prepared to spend at that bottom level. So if they're making good money at the top, there's no reason that shouldn't trickle down. Now, I'm no economist, so I can't state the dynamics of how exactly this works. But yeah, so my boss and I have always said this: we would happily pay vast amounts of money for tropical fish if it was something to conserve that fish. But we know that the general public are not behind us with that one. So John and I, we would pay £5 for a cardinal tetra. We pay £10 for a cardinal tetra because those fish are absolutely wonderful fish, and it's doing something. Or sorry, in the case of cardinals, at least, it's doing something to help conserve their habitat. Ultimately, it just comes down to that bottom line every single time. If people can get shit cheaper, they're going to buy shit cheaper.
No,
People don't give a fuck where the sourcing is, as long as they're paying absolutely nothing for it. So that's the tragic. Again, like I said, I'm not an economist, but that's the tragedy of where we are. It's just got to be kept on that sort of tightrope, making it financially worthwhile to keep that habitat going.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question here from one of the viewers, Matt Bond. He's potentially controversial one, but does Nathan think there's a place for an Aquashella type show in the UK?
Yeah, I do actually. I really do. Yeah, and I was somewhat upset. In fact, I was very upset by the response to an awful lot of the traders with the last cancelled aqua gig at Telford. Now, Cam, you probably won't be familiar with this, but John, I suspect you will be. So Aqua Telford was a annual trade show that's organised by the Ornamental Aquatic Trade Association in the UK, and it's actually a good way of them generating funding for what it is they do in regards to keeping the aquarium industry going. And what they wanted to do last year, which didn't come to a head, traditionally it's been I think 2 days. 2 days of just industry, just trade. So there'd be trade stands, there'd be wholesalers that would turn up on the day, and manufacturers. They would have their stalls, their shows, and it would just be open to industry, so just to retailers and other wholesalers, so they could work out what they wanted to buy. Last time they wanted to do it, they wanted to open it up a third day, I believe it was, and allow the general public to come in. So that would be effectively the closest thing we have, kind of like to an Aquashella so far, where the general public can come in and speak to guys like Eheim, speak to people like Tetra, and just ask them about the products. But yeah, everyone got cold feet and started to pull out from that. So it never ever happened. Is there a future of something like Aquashella in the UK? I think there is. I don't think for all the right reasons. And I think that stems back to what we mentioned earlier about how much of it nowadays is fucking YouTuber personalities. So yeah, I think people would turn up to see the latest influencer doing a speech that they probably don't know fuck all about. They might even know nothing about the subject, but again, they've been doing it for like 3 years and they think they're the world expert on it because they've got 18 quadrillion followers on Instagram and YouTube and wherever else. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of people that slavishly follow that. But those people also have the money. They're going to bring the money to those events. So everyone else could kind of piggyback off of that. If you're trying to do something like Aquashella for hobbyists only, it would be it'd be pretty empty, to be honest. We tried something probably about a decade ago. John, you might remember. Do you remember Aquatics Live down in London?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So the first one had a really good turnout. I think it ended up with just bickering between displayers. So there were wholesalers that were selling stuff directly to customers, and that caused needles. So it's always political. It's always fucking political. So people got the arsehole with other people. The turnout was was good. I don't think they could have done anything bigger than the venue they were in. So if they tried to do something like the NEC, I think it would fall in its arse. But yeah, nowadays with all the influencers and all the guys that just follow those influencers blindly, even though said influencers may know absolutely nothing about the fish, yeah, I think it'd probably do quite well.
Yeah,
you just need to get the names.
About 5 or 6 years ago, on the back of the live one that you just mentioned, that gave me the idea to put on some events up in Scotland, and I pulled together. It was about a year I'd done it, one every season, so to speak. And by the end of it, the final event, I had fish science. I had 4 different retailers from the area. I had ALF, they were on board.
Yeah.
Provided a whole host of CChem stuff. I had Interpet as well. They were another one that.
Yeah. Superb companies.
Local breeders. I had a fish show. I had a shrimp show one month, and I was pulling in maybe 200-300 people each event. And that showed me that was definitely something there. We even hosted the Catfish Study Group one year.
Yeah.
I had talks from them. So, and that was just me. So you can imagine somebody taking on board from a commercial point of view and really putting some bit of money behind it. It's definitely
there's legs there. I just wonder if. And this is not a pejorative to you at all. This is not I'm not trying to denigrate anything you've done there at all. I just wonder if with the numbers you had, I wonder if that was all the numbers.
Well,
that's
people, so.
Yeah, that's my concern. So you had the hardcore fish keepers that turned up to your event, but was that all the hardcore fish keepers that were going to turn up to event? So I wonder if you'd gone 3 times the size, would you still have that same number of attendees? That's my main concern. We hardcore fish keepers. I actually kind of hate that phrase anyway, but we invested fish keepers, so to speak. We're a pretty tight knit community, but we're not that big a community. Even if you were to go through all of your Facebook friends and look at who was in your own country who's a hardcore aficionado, you're probably in the low hundreds realistically. So when you start looking at a wider picture, you'll have lots of Aquarius friends over in America, in Germany, maybe South Africa, Singapore, all around the world. But ultimately, what's in your own country that you class as a dedicated hobbyist who would come out to a gig, it's probably not that many. I think we're quite a small club, to be honest. I think we're quite a small guild. Even when you look at the they're gonna fucking rage me again. But even when you look at the celebrity YouTubers, I'd be really interested to look at their stats and just see out of their million views, how many are actually within a 50-mile radius of those, and how many are scattered across, I don't know, Kerala, Sri Lanka, Australia. It's if that one person did an event, how many would actually turn up to that event that weren't flying in? So
you just need to look at aquascaping workshops and that kind of.
Well, yeah. There's your crowd pleasers straight away. Yeah, aquascaping workshops, quirky fish, but yeah, and stemming right back to what we said earlier, if you were to put on a lecture about is it bacteria or is it archaea, which bacteria is it? Is it Nitrosomonas nitrobacter? Who the fuck's going to turn up to that? So literally, we 3 will be there. that might be it. We might just be sat there thinking, what the fuck's happened here? Why does no one care? So, yeah.
So we've had a few comments. I'm going to read them out in the non-order they came in because it makes more sense.
Any aggressive ones?
Oh, yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Stephen proposes a bait and switch event using influencers to attract attendees, but all the speakers.
That's genius. Right, bait and switch. Let's get all the social media influencers to advertise an event But when they turn up, it's literally just me, just there, barely dressed, drinking heavily with a microphone, and we lock all the fucking doors. So they're gonna, and we do it old school. It's literally like a chalkboard and a chalk pen. It's like, oh, we'll be taking notes at the end. Yeah, you get any of this wrong, and we'll fucking slap you. Let's do that. That would be great fun. That would be superb.
I feel the way that Josh has brought this comment up, we could advertise it as a Hill vs. Mullen fight confirmed.
What have we got?
Oh, I've disappeared. He said, quit teasing us and fight.
Oh, Jesus. Tell you what, I will do that if we do it old school French pistol duel. I'll do that. I'll do that. Literally, get me an old-fashioned 18th century musket, muzzle loaded with a ball and shot and gunpowder, and I'll do that with any influencer. I just don't fucking care. I will literally. They can even have the first shot. I'll give them 5 seconds before I take mine. 20 paces, musket shot. Let's make it happen. But yeah, fist fights. It's just a bit. I don't know. It's all a bit erotic for my liking. 2 men just slapping each other about in a ring. I don't know. I think it would just end up with me going full Smeagol and like gripping onto him. You know, like frogs go at koi. So that's honestly, if it was me and someone else in a ring, it'd be like, oh, just bring in the police because he's got naked already. He's making a mess of things in there. So yeah, not me and someone in a ring. I will duel. I do also do something you probably don't know. I do also fence as well. I'm a sabreur. I do saber fencing. So yeah, if we want to do swords, I'll happily go through your heart.
just quietly, we'll go through your heart.
Yeah, I'll just take that sword away and just straight through. It'll take about 3 seconds. Game over.
So, what do you feel some of the most exciting trends in fish keeping are currently?
Not fucking LEDs. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, certainly not LEDs. LEDs are the least exciting trend in the entirety of fish keeping. The most exciting trends in fish keeping. Well, in the UK, we're a little bit screwed on this one because I was going to say it's like new discoveries, a new fish, but we've still got that shitty ill for white list of what we can and can't import. So there's stuff that until you're prepared to put in the groundwork and legalise it to come into the UK, it can't really come into the UK. So, best development. It's not even foods because most of those are just fucking chasing protein. Can I do most advanced or most influential company instead?
You can do whatever you want. It's your thoughts and your opinions on it.
Probably Sitche at the minute. So there, if you'd asked me this about 10 years ago, I'd have said the guys at Senai. So that was the first time in fucking decades that we'd actually seen an innovation, that we'd seen something new and different come out. But now I think Sitche are probably the innovators. They're coming up with a few interesting things, and I think the other guys to watch, who've always been like kind of left field and not doing much for ages, are Aqua L over in Poland. So the Polish guys, now though Polish guys are hardcore fish keepers. They are fucking in it for their livestock. I remember, I won't say the name of the store, but there was a store that was based in Peterborough. Wonderful store it was as well, but the location wasn't the best on the earth. And I remember speaking to, I think he might be the former owner. I think he might have left now. And I was just saying, like, how are you still going based on, like, I was being brutal. I was like, where you are, the traffic is fucking diabolical. The parking, you leave the car out there for 30 seconds and some cunt slaps you with a ticket. There's the C word again. Some cunt will slap you with a ticket. It's like, where are you getting your money from? And he just said it's the Polish pound. It's like, we've got a big Polish contingent in this area, they're all hardcore fish keepers. And it's like, he was saying that obviously when you do dry goods, it's a low markup. So little bit of insider knowledge here that'll fuck people off. So dry goods, if you're lucky, you're getting double up on the wholesale price, if you're lucky, plus VAT. So it's a 2 times markup. On livestock, if you're doing under 4 times markup on what you're paying, then it's fucky. You're just not going to make money. Once you've taken into account the electricity, the feeding costs, the water costs, everything. So there's a high markup on fish, low markup on dry goods. And this guy was saying that the Poles, they weren't buying dry goods at all. They weren't interested in dry goods because they were so DIY oriented. They were just making their own filters, anything they could make, them their own tanks, they make it themselves. He's like, but fuck me, they would just spend on livestock. So his profit margin, the amount of fish he was getting through, was going through the roof. And it was all that Polish pound. It was all Polish money because they're such hardcore fish keepers. They just want to buy livestock. So, yeah. I forgot what the original question was now, but yeah.
Something to do with friends or something along those lines.
Oh, well. Oh, trends, yeah. Aquarel. One is Aquarel's the one to watch. They are going places. Polish fish keepers. Yeah, I think some of the most devoted in the world. So watch this space. They know what fish keepers want, and they're prepared to incorporate it into their hardware. So yeah, good guys.
Do you want a minute to take your shot before we ask the next question?
Has John died on us?
No,
he's still there.
There is.
Wondering if you wanted to take your shot before we ask the next question. Okay, cool. What currently, how do you feel the industry in the UK is going? This is a question that I often ask guests, and I've had a lot of different opinions depending on where they're placed, I feel, in the industry.
It's going expensive, is where it's going at the moment. It's going hellishly expensive because I don't know if you're familiar with the whole price cap thing we had here with the electricity. You familiar with that, Cam?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, fuck me. They shat on retailers when they did that. Well, they shat on all of industry when they did that. So basically, all our energy costs, our fuel costs, our electricity and gas went absolutely through the roof. With the UK, I don't know if it applied to Scotland. I know it was the England and Wales, but I don't know what the Scottish laws were, or what the Scottish rules were on this. Maybe John can fill me in. We had a price cap, and I think, what the fuck was it? We could have our fuel costs increased by 3 times, and that was the absolute cap. They couldn't go over 3 times. And the government used basically, as far as I can work out, they used all the money that had been set aside for pensions to pay the fuel companies just to cover the rest. Mm-hmm. With industry, there was no cap. There was no cap whatsoever. And I know some retailers got absolutely fucked over on this one. I won't name a name. It's a well-known UK aquatic store. I think their yearly electricity cost alone went up something like £150,000 just for electricity. Yeah.
Holy
and
shit.
it's like that's like X number of staff, like right there. And because that government cap wasn't in place, so they appealed it. They did get some help, but retailers got hit with that. So if you were paying 50,000 one year, you might be paying 200,000 the next year, just because there was no cap on fuel costs. Now the knock-on effect with that, of course, was prices. Fish prices go up, everything goes up. So the state of the UK industry at the minute is expensive. It's very expensive. Fuel costs, bring it in. So when I was living down in Bristol, so I'm going back, 20 odd years, 25 years maybe. When I was bringing in boxes of fish from Singapore, Malaysia, and so forth, you're looking at about, I think it was 15 to 20 pounds a box for the freight landed in the country to be brought to your store. So when you got a box of fish in, you'd have maybe, I don't know, 1,000 fish in there, for argument's sake. You'd have like your neons, your platies, your guppies. They all had to carry 1,000th of that £15 or £20 on each fish. Before you worked out your markup, they all had to incorporate a bit of that freight cost.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I looked, it was like about £120 per box coming into UK. So if you've got a box of, say, 50 fish, each of those fish has to carry 1/50th of £120 before you've even put on your markup, so you can make enough money to make a return on what you spent. So, yeah, the future of fish keeping is expensive. The last time I went to a wholesaler's, which was probably going back maybe a year or so, I was looking at fish there, and the wholesale prices were higher than what I remembered retail prices as being. I was like, these are going to have that at least 4 times markup. Yeah, it's just absurd. However, that said, people are still happy to pay. People are still happy to pay for it. So, yeah, I think we've just kind of taken it for granted now that we pay more for everything. Sorry, my cat is absolutely soaking. There we go. So the future is going to be more expensive. I think there's going to be fewer and fewer people interested in the niche, unusual, rare one-off fish. So things like your rare panicays, acanthicus, and stuff like that. Simply because, again, where they're coming in. So if you're importing those directly in from, say, South America, if you're importing like wild fish in, and you've only got a handful in a box, whereas before you only had 50, 60 quid to divide up between 4 fish in a box, you've now got double that. You've got 120 quid. So straight away, so argument's sake, you got 4 black piranhas in a box. You paid £120 for the box, and you paid £20 each for the piranha, for argument's sake. 4 divided by 3, so 30 quid extra on each of those fish just for the freight. So suddenly you got 50 quid black piranhas to do your markup to make everything back. You're looking like 200 quid piranhas. So what's going to happen is that the cheaper end of the scale, so your neon tetras, your platies, your guppies, blah, 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 they're going to remain affordable, but disagreeably affordable. So they're going to shoot up the £3, £4, £5, maybe even £6 mark. But your rare, unusual fish, your I don't know, rare whiptails and whatnot, they're going to exponentially increase. So those fish that are 50 quid now are going to be like 100, 120 quid in years to come. They're going to become decreasingly accessible. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Does that make fish an investment? Or is that just a way of explaining it to the other half?
Fuck. No, not really. So the second-hand value of fish has, and probably always will be shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, second-hand fish just seem to have no value. We can see that from breeders. So again, once you're into those rare fish, so if we did like some kind of rare unusual cichlid, I don't know, like a red terror or something, that's costing someone, for argument's sake, I'm going to pluck numbers out of my arse here, but so you're paying 80 quid a fish. You get a breeding pair, so you pay £160 for your breeding pair of fish. You take them home, you breed them, you get 200 fry. The problem is you're still the only person in your town, maybe apart from one other, who's interested in that red terror. So you've now got X hundred fry. You're trying to sell to a retailer. He's like, I'm not going to sell these, even at like 40 quid a head. So yeah, the whole market comes crashing down very, very quickly. There's just no future in expensive fish, unless you're actually importing them for a collector, for someone who's interested. I mean, maybe the rare exception would be something like the Hypancistrus zebra, but even those, I could probably count the number of people that are interested in keeping those on both hands out of the thousands of people I know. Even less so the people that are prepared to pay for them.
Is that a price based one? They were $30 each. Would more people want them though? Sorry,
can you repeat that? I missed that. You just broke up.
Is that a price-based thing? If they were, say, $30 each, do you think more people would go, cool, I want them? But they go, whatever, they're $400 or $500 over here.
Yeah, well, I don't know on that one. Yeah, I don't know on that one. And I think it's also naivety on the part of the majority of people that go into a fish store. I had this conversation. I've had it several times, but I had it very recently. Going back again to my Bristol days, the first time I ever had Zebraplex, Hypancistris zebra, they were absolute dirt cheap. I got Hypancistris zebra, I got the L177, the gold nuggets, and I had some Magnumplex, and I've completely forgotten the number of those. And I carried the box with a load of, I think it was wild caught tetras of some sort. They were retailing at £26 a head. People were complaining about the price back then. And it's like, okay, they're like 110, 120 pounds a head now. So I don't know. I think people are going to complain about the price regardless, whether it's 30 quid or whether it's 100 quid. But yeah, I don't know. I think everyone has a kind of cut-off. They just don't want to spend above, which is why I say I think the small, safer fish, all your tiger barbs and your platies and whatnot, I think they're going to be fine. Yeah, they're going to be fine up till maybe the £5 mark, and then it's going to start getting sticky. So it really is a case of how well retailers can manage, and wholesalers, well, the whole supply chain, how they can manage the expense of fish all the way from source to retailer. If you can keep things in that acceptable budget, then we'll be okay. But yeah, whatever it is, once it starts going over, they won't be interested. But like I say, those rarer fish, they're going to exponentially increase compared to the other fish. So whereas a tiger barb might go from £3 to £50, sorry, £3 to £5. A rare whiptail might go from £50 to £90, and that's a big jump. That's a big jump, and that's when people start thinking, maybe I'm not that obsessed a hobbyist as I thought I was. So yeah.
How do you yourself balance being a hobbyist and being involved in the industry?
Oh, I completely separate them now. So yep. I've tried to do this, and I actually did this on the advice of one of my former editors. And one of the things that both of us started doing was we refused to accept discounts on fish. Because we're in the industry, we go to places, people will be like, well, normally it'd be like £20 for this 6 fish. To you, it's a tenner. We'd be insistent. It's like, no, we want to pay the absolute full whack because this is separate to what we do as a career. Yeah. So,
so you weren't considered an influencer in the fish industry?
No. No, people perceive me. Yeah, people may have perceived me as such, but I was never an influencer. That was never my thing. All I ever tried to do was recount the facts about fish. It was never, influencers are about themselves. It was never really about me. There was the op-eds at the back that I tried to make as little about. I tried to make them as industry oriented or as hobby oriented as possible. I tried to make them as little about me as possible. Apart from the last couple of issues where I was like, fuck it, I'm going to be really idiosyncratic and a bit narcissistic about this. But yeah, it was very important to keep the hobby and the profession separate. And that, to be honest, it didn't make sense to me until I started paying full whack on fish. And then they meant so much more to me. So until then, they were just a little bit. With PFK, you were setting up tanks so often, and you were just getting fish given to you, or even like borrowing fish. You'd like sort of pay for fish and then get credit back when you took them back to the store, because you'd have a tank for a couple of months and you move on to the next one. It wasn't your hobby. You weren't the fish keeper. You were just vicariously keeping fish for other people so they could do their tanks. And when separated out, it's like, this is my tank. So one of the tanks I'm not showing you now, it's over that side of the room. There's no fucking way I'm showing you that. That's my cherry barb tank. I'm not even going to tell you what else is in there, but that is my personal tank. That's for me. That's for my own enjoyment. So the tank behind me, which I was going to show you, but now the lights have gone off, that was one that featured in the mag. It's kind of public property, and I've got to deal with that. It to this day, it feels a little bit tainted because it was something for them and not for me. Even though I've made the point of buying my own fish, so a lot of the original stock has moved on, it's been rehoused. and I've bought my own fish into that, but it still feels dirty. So it's hard to explain, but just
I understand. As someone who purchase fish to sell fish, I'm looking after these fish for somebody else before they take it home and have their forever homes.
Yeah, you just felt like a bit of a steward.
The displays in the shop are for the same sort of thing, and you know, I've got my own frontosa display out the back, which are my fish that I enjoy personally myself. There's no, I just sit there and have a cup of coffee and enjoy them, and that's I get it. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important to make that distinction. So yeah, and I'm glad I did. Very, very glad I did. But
we've had a couple more questions. Shah would like to know, what would you tell a fish keeper that is losing their spark, how to rekindle the love for the hobby?
Jesus Christ, I've been there many a time. So just persevere. Honestly, it's just persevere. So like so many things in life, you do get into a funk, and it's easy to quit when you're in a funk. So I've had funks in the past. One of the major funks that I had was going back when I was still living in Peterborough, and I bought one of my absolute dream fish. Fucking hell, this infuriates me to this day. So I was living in a house shell in Peterborough, this big 3-floor detached place. There's me and a few other guys in there. And I managed to get across to, we did pier aquatics and we did aqua life up at Leyland. And they had in there a load of Nonostomus espies. Do you know the little tiny pencil fish with like the black bars down the side? Beautiful. Again, paid an absolute fortune for them. And I had a tank in my bedroom that was adjoining to the house next door, and it was set up right next to my bed. And these fish went in there. Water chemistry, I was using RO water on it and everything. The water chemistry was absolutely perfect, A1. And so they went in, everything was fine. I went to work and I came back and I'm like, I got home and I'm like, these fish are stressed to absolute fuck and I have no idea what's going on. So, don't know. They seemed to clear up over the course of the evening. Went to work the next day, came back, had a couple of dead in there. Everyone else is looking absolutely stressed to fuck. I'm like, what is absolutely going on here? Went on for a couple more days. I think it was day 4. I stayed home that day. It was a weekday, and I was sat on my bed, and I remember jumping out of my fucking skin because of the sheer noise that was coming through my house. And what was going on? The house directly behind mine, the house adjoined to mine, in that room, they were hammer drilling through the wall. Okay, my tank's up against the wall, and as they're doing it, my bed's shaking. There's fucking like furniture shaking. I'm watching the tank. Every one of these fish is just like, geez, they're literally smashing from like side to side in the tank, not having a fucking clue what's going on. And I'm like, I've already lost most of my fucking espies because of this. So yeah, I remember going around having a huge fucking shouting match with the guys next door. And it absolutely destroyed my funk. It was something completely outside of my control. Like I say, water chemistry was fine. Water quality was fine. I'd done everything right. But this outside influence that I hadn't noticed because I've been working all day, when they're smashing this fucking wall behind my house, was driving my fish into a frenzy, just stressing them out to shit. And that for me was an absolute all-time low. I was just like, I'm ready to give up the hobby at this point. I love these fish. These are like holy grail fish for me that I've wanted my whole life. Pretty much the entire lot are now dead. Courtesy of this fucking, they might as well have just been sat there right in front of my tank, right in front of the cabinet, just bashing it with a hammer. That's the level of noise that was coming through. And so yeah, I was from that, the tank sat empty for about 2 months, and I was just in a real funk about it. I was like, I don't want any more fish now. I don't want to do anything with the hobby. But yeah, it was just perseverance. It was just absolute perseverance. And then eventually I was like, I will try something else in that tank. I am at a low. can't remember what I did in there next. I think it was Phoenix Tetras and some epistogrammas. And then, yeah, before I knew it, I was in love again. I absolutely loved it. So, yeah, just persevere. If you are feeling down, take a break if you have to. Just take a few weeks out. But, yeah, just don't forget it. Don't forget the hobby. Don't forget the joy it gave you. But you will suffer setbacks, and sometimes those setbacks will be entirely out of your control.
We've just had a couple of comments that we'll run through really quickly. We've got, can I hear cats though? And then Matt believes that the cat might have poured tequila in the tank. And RR16R feels that Nathan is an old cat lady and you definitely have toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, that's probably right, to be fair. Have you ever seen Train Spotting, Cam?
Oh, not for a long time.
Yeah, that's what he had in that. That was what what's his face got? Toxoplasmosis. Yeah, that was it. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but again, it might just be the raging autism. Who knows? Who can tell?
Shit.
Oh,
sorry, my cursor just picked up my browser and disappeared it for a quick second. Cool. What was some of the most rewarding aspects of your time as an editor of PFK?
Well, I've mentioned one already, which was the being invited to do the foreword for Ivan McColgee's book. That was an exceptional moment. Bear with me. I'm just going to sit down. So, slight digression here. I've got... Come up, Willow. Come on. Come up. Here we go. So, yeah, I've got a cat who's had a bit of a nervous breakdown. She has been in the house for like weeks, and she's finally started coming in. So, you'll excuse me just for one moment while I give her lots of attention. Ivan McColgee, being invited to do the foreword for that was just a defining moment. I think another moment was the first time I had a photograph published, because I was just doing analog 35mm film, and I mean it was very amateur, real amateur photography stuff. And then suddenly I knew how to take photos. I knew how to edit them, and within a short space of time, they're on the cover of the magazine. I was like, I've actually done something here. That's actually, I've improved a skill. I've done good.
So now that you've left PFK, what do you think the future of that magazine holds?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. So I'm going to be careful with my wording here. It is, I believe it's in limbo for a couple of months until a new editor comes in. But given what it's become, so bear in mind, remember when I started, it was a team. There was a big team. There was the subs editor, the copy editor. There was someone just doing specifically. There's a fish person doing specifically online content about fish stuff. There was a designer. They still have a brilliant designer, a dedicated designer. There was a features writer, and there was an editor. It's now very much a bit of a one-man band. Whoever has gone into that role, I know the person who's gone in, and I love that guy to bits. He won't be there for a few months, but he's got an awful lot of work to do. So I hope he's going to be okay with it. Whether it will remain in print, I don't know. Whether it will move to online, I don't know. So you just have to watch this space. But if I was to say that my ending with PFK was acrimonious, that would be putting it mildly. So we didn't have the most noble of finishes, shall we say? And so since then, I've not really seen the magazine. I've seen a couple of pages, and what I saw wasn't exactly promising. But yeah, at that point, I've severed all ties. I've severed all connection with that magazine. So, which is a shame, because again, I've been reading it since the 1980s. So remember, I was a young lad. So from 1980, how old would it be? 1987, 88. I started reading that magazine. And yeah, this is the first issue in a long time that I haven't picked up. So yeah, I can forgive people for making me dislike my job, but I don't know if I can forgive them for making me dislike my former magazine. So, and that's something that will stick with me. A sad ending. We're not. I should add, we're not in that depressive drunk stage, by the way. We're still on cloud nine here. We're having a great time.
We've brought up and mentioned about potential guest writing and editing and stuff like that. Is there any sort of projects that you are really, other than the real eclectic book you're talking about before, other ones that are in the pipeline or we've been thinking about, or there might be opportunities for you to do in the upcoming future, or are you just living the dream and playing with fish tanks?
No. There's a couple of things I would be interested in doing, but probably not under my own name. So when I said earlier, you've got that Venn diagram that doesn't overlap. You've got your writers, you've got your fish keepers, and you get the big void in the middle. So I did actually study at university level. I studied creative writing with Open University. So that is a background I have. And I was especially interested in creative nonfiction. There are a couple of projects that I'm interested in getting involved with, or a few guys I'm interested in working with, but it would be under the umbrella of anonymity. So I think the guys at Shoal, I don't know if you're familiar with Shoal, the freshwater conservation project, based in the UK. I'd be very interested in doing some journalistic work for those guys. That said, you'll never know about it because it will be entirely anonymous. So I'm still, as far as I know, since leaving PFK, I think I'm still on the panel, the board of advisors for Shoal. So I'd be very keen in re-establishing my links with those guys and doing something with those. And one of the most underrated fish keepers stroke conservationists in the UK, and I'll apologise massively if I pronounce his name wrong because I don't think I've ever got his name right. I think it's Chris Englezu, who used to be, or he still is, CE Fish Essentials. Oh my God. So the work that guy does behind the scenes regarding conservation.
So good.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And I would be more than happy to lend my writing and journalistic skills to anything that he needs done at any point. But again, you won't know about it because it will be completely anonymous. Likewise, any new fiction I do, it's like I say, there's all the independent magazines. I'm going to be working on fiction for those guys. It will be entirely anonymous. You literally won't see what I'm doing because it's for me.
You're not going to use the name Laser Cat, are you?
Sorry?
You're not going to use the name Laser Cat, are you?
God, no, just Boris Doghat. So
yeah.
We had Chris on, must have been 2 years ago now, and he's doing some very cool stuff. Lovely human being and doing some brilliant work. So
yeah,
together and do some things.
Yeah, what I love about Chris as well is he just goes under the radar. So this stems back to what I said earlier about the fucking celebrities compared to Chris. Chris is just out there doing that shit, and he's doing it well. And I don't think I've ever seen his face on camera. I've never seen him on video. He's out there doing fucking God's work. He's not trying to blow smoke up his own arse. That man is an absolute hero with what he's doing.
He's doing a wee short video vlog sessions on his YouTube channel. Just real short, concise. It's brilliant to watch and listen to. I should have mentioned he's actually one of the other guys that I follow on YouTube. Yeah, he's one of the rare guys that I actually watch. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I apologise to you, Chris, for not mentioning you earlier. But yeah, you are doing God's work. You are a brilliant person. Keep it up. Keep it up, my friend. And anything you ever need, writing-wise, I'm right here for you.
just as long as he promised not to publish my name. So
the other thing that was quite exciting about that is you mentioned Shoal. Just as a full-on shameless plug for me, we're speaking to someone from Shoal next week, so that'll be fun.
okay. Which one is it? Is it Mike Edmonston?
I will have to go through my emails and double check who's confirmed. I've just written in my planner Shoal and contact them after we do this. So yeah,
I bet it's Mike. Mike's lovely, absolutely lovely, and that's one for all your hot-blooded lady viewers to check into. So we did a couple of years ago. We did he was at Telford. He was at Aqua Telford. God, he was a head turner. So yeah, he's got the 6 foot. He's got the 6-pack. I don't know about the 6 figures, but ladies love him, and they were not shy about admitting it. So yeah, he's handsome. I might clock in for that one. I might ask him lots and lots of questions about like his underwear and stuff. So it's lovely is Mike.
Cool. We've had a couple more questions. Shah would like to know, will there be a new version of Fish?
Yeah, but not for about a year away.
Cool.
And it'll be far punkier. It'll be dirtier. It'll be swearier. It'll be raw. It'll be cutting. It'll be potentially libelous. But my God, it's going to be fun. And it's probably just going to be a one-off. It'll be a one-off, and then I'll probably fuck off again for about 18 months, and then I'll work out what the next project's going to be. So after that, who knows? It might be just some kind of weird podcast involving snippets of commentary with drone music and God knows. Yeah, watch this space. It's going to get fucking weird.
Nathan would like to know, since you like Seashade products but hate influencers, will you fight Jason Wilson as a PPV event in the next ALF open house? No.
So 2 counts. 1, that motherfucker knows how to use guns. I know that for a fact. And 2, I think he was one of the hosts at the Fins and Fury thing. And I still need to rip the shit out of him about that. Yeah. Honestly, what was that about? Yeah. Okay. So maybe we should do like a counter to Fins and Fury, and maybe we should just do like a fucking high-end one, like, I don't know, Acris Chess or something. Just keep it fucking highbrow, because that it just offended me on so many levels. Yeah. If you're watching, Jason, I love you to bits, but you're armed, mate, so I can't speak the truth.
Are you going to write a biography for a famous German explorer who discovered many, many new species?
Oh, yeah. And his rabbit Spazzy. No. In a nutshell. Actually, that said, so I know, I'm not going to name names. I know the person who's being talked about here. I know the person in question. When he does eventually pass on, which, given the amount of times he's had anthrax and malaria and God knows what the fuck else, can't be far off now. I actually know someone who's besotted with that man, and will write his obituary. And I'll probably cry when it comes out, because, yeah, as much as he's been a source of endless entertainment, that man did actually do a fucking lot for this industry. I'm not going to name names because you don't need that lawsuit.
No, I don't, because like I said before, I'm the only lawyer. And we don't
exactly. Yeah, so no names involved, but yeah, I will add, I've seen him not just in his Speedos, but I've actually seen one of his bollocks hanging out in a photograph. Yeah. Yeah, literally squatting down in his fucking tangas, and one of his hairy Maris Pipers had just dropped out, and it was just there. Like, that was harrowing.
In a bag of angelfish?
I actually think he was in. I think he might have been in Sulawesi or Papua for this one. So yeah, there were no angels involved, but yeah, it was a harrowing sight. Harrowing. Imagine an apple just covered in fucking spiders. It was just, it was messy. And he submitted it. He submitted the fucking thing. It's like, what the? Did you not look at the photos before you sent them? I can see everything. It's
German
all there. Yeah, God, it was something else.
I'm not going to eat another apple.
So yeah, but thankfully we didn't say a name there, so I'm not going to get beaten up.
I think we've pretty much come to the end of most of our structured questions. Is there anything else pressing that you would like to ask, John? I have put a forewarning out to the people that may or may not come to the shop that we're going to be opening late today, so we've got a bit of leeway here.
Now, John, I know what you're thinking, and if I told you the answer, you'd think I was talking in centimetres.
What's your favourite longboard?
Oh, the Timber Tortuga. So Dutch guy, I can't remember the guy's name. Company called Timber. It's just shy of 4 foot, called the Tortuga. What a beautiful dancing board that is. For downhill, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a really weird. It dips in shape. It's basically you can just like get properly down on it, kneel down on it for downhill. But I've completely forgotten the name. Brutal fucking fast, that thing. So it should be street luge rather than downhill longboard. It's brutal.
How long ago was it since you last hurt yourself on the longboards?
Been a while, actually. It's been an awful long time since I've been out on any boards. Last time I properly hurt myself was actually going back years. That was in Peterborough. Oh, no, tell you what, that wasn't even a longboard. That was a slalom board. So slalom, if you ever skate slalom, it's harrowing because when it goes just like that. And normally when it goes, if you're lucky, you get like a low side and that'll just flip you off and you can land on your feet. If you get a high side, I might have got that wrong around. If you get a low side that way and you're leaning into it, it will just throw you into the floor. And that was the one I had. I didn't break the collar, thankfully, but I did pop a couple of ribs. So, yeah, just working through cones. And then all of a sudden I'm on the floor thinking, fuck me, I can't breathe. So, yeah.
Final question for me is, have you been able to make more music since walking away from PFK? Not
yet. However, let's do another. Can we do a plug right there?
Are you relying on me to actually put things in here? Because I may or may not do it. I'll try.
So, if you have a look at on my profile, I had the most surreal conversation just last night. I don't know. So I didn't know this guy. We've literally got like one mutual friend, and it's not even someone I've interacted with. Someone completely out of the blue tapped me up to say, I can't remember the wording. They were basically saying that if you don't like this experimental kind of drone ambient krautrock style tune I've put together, or this album put together, I don't know who will. Wood and Smith, I think, was the name of the artist. Wood and Smith on Bandcamp, and the album is called Anabantoids or Anabantids, and it was I was like, I had to message back. I was like, no one has ever gauged me as well as you have. This is exactly my music. This is drone. This is weird. This is backwards cassette. This is fucky sound noise, and it's fish based. So if you can do me a favor and just get a link up for those guys up in there.
Yeah, I've written a wee note and I will see what I can do.
Have a look. But fuck me. It's really good. Maybe it's not your thing, but so I've done the rounds. I used to be into drum and bass. I was into hip hop. I was into lo-fi when it was actual lo-fi, when it wasn't that chill hop shit that they pump out today. When it was actual lo-fi, into drone, into electronica, into ambient. And this guy just managed to find all the right notes. And I was like, no one has ever gauged my music taste so well. And I don't even know who the fuck you are. You just presented me with this album. So yeah, get that up. Well worth a listen.
Sure. We'll see how
and if you want to have mine, I'll put a little gap there. If you want to have mine, because it's shit, but I kind of enjoy it. And I'll send you the link afterwards. It's my Rail Whip stuff, which is I use fish photos for the album covers, so that's close. But yeah, that's droney.
Cool. Someone has left a comment up here. Branton has said we could have had more swearing in this show, he guesses.
Could we fuck you cunting bastard?
All right. So yeah, that ends basically all of our structured questions. I have had somebody message me and ask verbally. There's different ways that people pronounce different things. A lot of Europe, I feel, pronounce the word aquatics.
Oh, fucking hell. You managed to touch a nerve right at the end there. One of my absolute bugbears is fucking American YouTube. What is aquatic? That's not even a fucking word. Aquatic. How do you say it, Cam?
Aquatic.
Oh, you... Oh. Aquatic. Where the... John?
Aquatic.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Honestly, the Scots are holding the fucking standard candle for English language these days. That was perfect. That was beautiful. So yeah, it's aquatic. Anyone that says aquatic is just a wanker, really. It's just not right.
It is what it is.
Welcome to my aquatic podcast. Fuck off. It's aquatic, for fuck's sake. And I don't want to see... Show me the fucking fish. I don't want to see you.
My local pool is called the Aquatic Centre, not the Aquatic Centre.
I saw the aquatic centre.
Differently.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Right, look, I don't want to start. I don't want to start a fucking colonial war here. You're New Zealand. We gave you the fucking language. Stop butchering it. It's aquatic. For fuck's sake! How hard can it be? Ungrateful fucking colonials. Oh,
I'm sure there is a lot of people from New Zealand that are a little bit angry about being given the language, but we'll not touch that.
It's aquatic.
Okay. So we like to end our Finatics Friday Coffee Dates with something we call the Quick School of Six, which is 6 short answer questions. They're not meant to put you on the spot, but every now and then there is one that does.
So let me get ready.
Okay, yep, we'll let you do that and get another fucking while you're at it.
I'm gonna have a small one this time, so bear with me. Fucking hell. Oh my god, how much of that fucking bottle have I caned? Oh my god. Right, ready?
Yep.
Fucking hell. Right. Pet me.
Doing a coin toss, do you do heads or tails?
Tails.
Are you a tea or a coffee drinker?
So I have to have decaf, whatever it is. I prefer tea. I used to love Russian Caravan and Pai Mutan. Turns out, 40 years of my life, didn't even know it. I'm allergic to fucking caffeine. I have caffeine intolerance. 40 years of my life. Yeah, 40 years of my life. Palpitations pretty much daily. They take me to hospital. They injected me with dyes. They put me on tilt tables. Did everything. They didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. X number of years ago, I decided to go on a detox, cut out sugar, cut out caffeine, cut out fats, cut out all sorts. Palpitations went away. Turns out it's fucking caffeine. I will never drink Pepsi ever again. And I fucking love Pepsi. Give me a can of Pepsi, I'll be in hospital. So yeah. But decaf, tea, decaf for Sam. Beautiful.
Cool. Imagine this man on caffeine. Are we alone in the universe?
Does the universe even exist?
Ooh.
That's a good answer.
So another thing I probably should have mentioned earlier. So as well as studying creative writing, I study philosophy. So if you want to take a really deep impression of it, does the universe even exist, or is it all solipsistic? Is it all existing in your mind? So if the universe as a physical reality exists, I'll be alone? Probably not. No. Given I'll be alone now is a different question, and it makes no sense because of relativity. So was there life 80,000 or 150,000 or 2 million light years away? Was there life there on that planet then? Yes, but that was 152 million years ago. Is it there now? What does now even mean? When it comes to relativity, it makes no sense. Probably, I don't know.
That is the most intense answer I think we've ever had for that question. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I got an ice cream. Yeah.
If you could have a meal with somebody alive or dead from any point in time, fictional or real, who would that be?
Hitler.
Okay. Nobody
And
has said Hitler.
And I'd ask why.
Do you want me to ask why, or did you say don't ask why?
No, I'd ask why. I'd sit down with Hitler and I'd say, why?
You would ask why.
I would literally sit down with him, Freudian style, and I'd try and unpack it. And I'd be like, where did it start? What was the trigger for you? What brought out all this anger, all this resentment? So yeah, Hitler. And I just want to know why he did what he did. Where was the start point? What was the trigger that made him do what he did?
Paper, scissors, rocks. What's your first call?
Scissor.
Cool. What is your unicorn fish? One you'd like to take a photo of, see in the wild, write about, own? Is there one that still has eluded you?
I can't own it because you can't keep it in an aquarium. I would absolutely love to shoot a blue shark in the wild. Love those sharks. They are, of all the sharks, they are just the civilized, refined, sleek. They're the sports car of sharks. They're beautiful. Well, actually, they're the sports bike of sharks. I'm a biker. I don't do cars. So I'm into sports bikes. I'm into motorbikes in general. They're just perfectly sleek, narrow, hydrodynamic. If I was going to ride a shark, like with a little saddle, it would be a blue shark. That's the one I want to see. It's beautiful.
And my last question is, which is number 7, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you? And if you don't want people contacting you, who would you like to shout out to have a look at their YouTube channels, blog, or whatever it happens to be?
So my YouTube is only for music. I'm not going to give you that link. My SoundCloud, you've got that link. My email's private. My phone, I don't even know. No one's even fucking rung me since I've left PFK. No one's interested. I'm dead since I left PFK. No one fucking cares. So my phone is dead. Don't care about that. If you want to see me in person, come to the fish room. The link's right there, guys. We've put it in. You see the link? So come to the fish room if you want to see me in person. Beyond that, just don't speak to me. I'm very happy. I can't state this enough. Since I left PFK, when it was all about my PMs, fuck me. I'd log on to Facebook. There'd be like 25, 30 PMs just waiting for me every fucking day. My emails would be insane every single fucking day. And it was just people generally wanting something. There's a handful of guys in there that I wanted to speak to, contributors, friends, a tiny minority. The rest of it was just people trying to get something out of me. I just leave me alone. I'm happy now. I'm really, really happy. I live my quiet, shitty life. I'm down in the garden centre. I look after the fish. I feed the fish. I clean the tanks. It's a dream come true. So, yeah, if you want to pick a fight, make it physical or fuck off. Don't make it a war of words because I'll just turn it physical. Beyond that, just leave me in peace. I'm happy. I've got my wife. I've got my house. Everything is lovely. Just leave me be.
That'll be why it was so hard to get hold of you about a year ago, because I was trying to get through all the screeds of people sliding into your DMs.
You'd have been like 200 fucking messages down. So every morning, so bear in mind, I've got a dozen emails coming in this year. I've got bosses telling me to do things in this year. Then I clock onto fucking social media and I'm like, who are the 8 people I know out of these? Who do I need to respond to? Everyone else can wait. And of course, they go into the waiting poll. I don't get time to go back to them. So yeah, a year ago, we would not have had this meeting. And as I mentioned at the start, I'd have been mentally fucked from the offset. I'd have been drooling. So yeah.
Well, I'm very grateful we've managed to get this together. There is one last comment that I would like to bring up right here. Graham has said, as much as he likes fish and fish tanks, I kind of just want to take you out for a pint or 7. And I think that is a comment that is pretty well echoed through a lot of the people that have been watching. This has been phenomenal. Thank you very much, Boris Lasercat Doghat. It has been much appreciated that you've shared your time with us.
7 pints of what? If it's 7 pints of piss, I'm not interested. If it's 7 pints of tequila, we're in business. Cam, you have been amazing. John, you have been absolutely amazing. I love you to bits. One day I'm going to fight you and I'm going to kiss your head. Cam, we're probably never going to meet because we're literally like a hemisphere apart. I don't think we're ever going to meet in person. So, but if we do, let's breed.
Jeff has also said that you need to do a weekly podcast of some sort.
Absolutely fucking not. My face, honestly, guys, you don't understand how much of a fucking treat this is to you. I do not do podcasts. My face, the perfect face for fucking Gulag, does not appear anywhere else, yeah? You managed to get me on camera for, what, 3 fucking hours? No one has ever done that. It's never happening again. Treasure it. Treasure it.
Thank you so very much. And everybody that has been here, thank you very much. This has been an absolute blast. I said prior to this, I think this might easily make our top 10 live streams of all time, and it's easily up in the top 5. This has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody who's been here with us.
I love you all, everyone. I'll see you again.
Have a good one, team. Happy
You take care.